Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I'm here in Los Angeles, live, coming at you, Young Brando, your host for Late Night Watch Talk. We are going to pick up the thread from last Tuesday. We were looking at the auction from Ineichen, Zürich, which is exclusively curated from Patek Philippe watches, and it's called Timeless Treasures. If you're familiar with the live stream, you know that I post you the link so you can browse at your own leisure. And if you have any particular requests, if you want to draw my attention to any particular lot, if you want to highlight a special watch that is being sold in the auction, feel free to send in the lot number with a super chat, and I would be more than happy to dive deep into it, go back to it, move forward, fast track, whatever you want to call. If you have any watch related question at all, feel free to do the same. You know, this channel is fully powered by the support and contributions from its audience. So any recognition of the work I put in here is much appreciated, but I'm already grateful for your presence. So thank you for being here. Hit the like button in advance because I know you'll like it. Um, let's just dive right in. We are going to start today with the watch that I have in the thumbnail, which is a simple Calatrava, but one with a special complication, one that has become quite popular over the last few years, especially in the way that it has been encased in Patek Philippe's rugged sports watch, the Aquanaut. Of course, that is the 5164 A and R. The model was until recently available in both stainless steel and pink gold. It is now discontinued. Um, there is some mystery surrounding that. I guess we can talk about that later if you would like me to explain, to elaborate. But this particular complication, the Aquanaut travel time, has now been discontinued. I'm talking about the reference 5164. Now, the travel time is actually a complication that Patek Philippe introduced in the Calatrava case, and it was unsurprisingly also a movement, or rather a complication, invented by Louis Cotier, who is the same gentleman who gave to Patek Philippe the complication for the world time wristwatch, especially, that has been, of course, one of their timeless icons ever since it was introduced in wristwatch form in the 1415 HU. In mid 50s, Patek actually introduced a Calatrava with the reference 2597, which had two notched sliders on the left flank of the case, where you have the pushers nowadays for that same function. And in fact, the first incarnation of the watch didn't even have an extra hour hand. It basically just jumped back and forth on the hour hand the watch, the Calatrava, had. That complication was soon improved with an additional time to track a reference time zone. In fact, it was so quick as an introduction that a lot of the earlier examples of the reference 2597 were retrofitted with the additional hour hand, which of course makes that first series unmodified versions of the Calatrava reference 2597 all the more rare and all the more precious and sought after. This is probably one of the interesting entries to the complications in Patek, a very useful and everyday one at that. It's, I think, for obvious reasons, a kind of watch and a reference number that is overlooked, but there is, I think, a lot of value in it. And in fact, such value was recognized by none other than Nick Fox, who actually encouraged this particular model as an entry point into a Patek Philippe collection at large. This is the reference 5134R, meaning it is a pink gold watch. It has slightly oversized applied Breguet numerals, complemented by blackened handsets, leaf style. Of course, at 12 o'clock, it has an extra hour for the 24 hours. Which actually tracks your reference time, and the pushers help you move the gold colored hands in 1 hour intervals around the dial to the extent that you can travel through time, travel through time zones. As you can see, those colors are matched, and there's also a subsidiary dial for seconds at 6 o'clock. .37 millimeters of diameter. This piece is powered by caliber 215, which is hand wound. And as you can see, it carries the Geneva seal on one of its bridges, exhibition case back, and a matching déployant clasp that carries the Calatrava cross. Thank you, JB. Are those numbers perfect? I'm a big fan of Breguet numerals, and I think, as oversized as they are, I actually like them better. It might seem somehow maybe too large for the case. It is a 37 millimeter old school Calatrava case after all, but I think they are just perfect. So you have that right on. Dark Child, nice to see you. God bless you too. If you get home from Ukraine, you get yourself a nice watch. Yeah, that would be an incredible way to memorialize that. Jake Brooks says, who's also a member of the channel, consecutive sixes and the 6-9 on the top dial dates it a little. Right, because it is kind of radially arrayed, you mean? Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. Sure. These kinds of things are done in watches still today, but I don't know. So this piece is at lot 26. I think the fixed price they had for it, and that's one of the things that Ineichen usually has their lots, a buy it now option that can trigger the end of the auction at any point in time. I think it's a little overpriced at that level, but with less than, well, right around 9 hours and 15 minutes left on the clock, the piece is being bid at 18,750 in US dollars. I've mentioned this many times, but I will repeat that Ineichen tries to live up to their role as a disruptor in today's auction landscape. So they don't charge buyers premium, certainly in listings, in lots where they have this particular remark. So at that price point, it might still be an interesting buy. On the secondary market, I think, especially if you don't necessarily care about the shade of the gold, and if you're just looking for a best example, you might be able to get it for even less than that. But at that price point, it seems quite all right. Of course, there's always taxes and potentially custom fees involved in any such purchase. That being said, that would have been the hammer price if the auction ended right now. It is marked as a very good condition watch. The pictures, the photos in this case, are detailed enough, and they don't show any other material, no collaterals, no box and papers. So we have to assume that those don't come with lot 26. They have more modern, more contemporary examples of the same complication, this time in the pilot's watch mold. For my part, I don't know, I've never been convinced by Patek's pilot watches. It's just me. I have some friends who swear by them. I never thought it fit with the image of the brand, with what one expects from Patek. Obviously, There are historical examples, right? There is, in fact, one example in the museum, if I'm not mistaken, off the top of my head, from the 30s. That being said, you know, we all have our conceptions and expectations from certain brands. To me, these things just don't fit together. That being said, this one has two piston-like pushers for the travel time function, oversized Arabic numerals that are inlaid with luminous material, and broadsword hands, blued also for the main handset, and skeletonized white for the reference time. This particular iteration of the complication is a little different, as you can see, and has two simplified day-night indicators in the form of punctures or portholes on the dial, one for local time, one for home time, and then it has a subdial at 6 o'clock for a pointer date. This is the version in white gold, the reference 5524G, with the blue dial. A much more contemporary watch, a much more sporty or casual watch, you might say. It is presented with its box, certificate of origin, the original strap, and the accompanying product literature. .42 millimeter case. It does have that buckle, pilot style buckle, that's special to this model, to Patek's pilot watches in general, I should say. And a different movement, as you can see, a self-winding movement. And of course, this one has Patek Philippe's own seal on the bridge. Lot 27, which is the 5524 Pilot Calatrava travel time with the blue dial, with about 9 hours to go. It is currently being bid at 32,950 in US dollars. I don't think the reserve has been met yet, so I don't know if the piece will actually sell. And considering that we are nowhere near the fixed price of 74,400, unless things change dramatically in the last 9 hours, there's a good chance it might not actually sell. Lot 28 is the same piece with a black dial. And this perhaps allows you to see the peculiar attachments to the proprietary buckle. And this particular piece seems like it is much closer to actually complete the sale, because lot 28 for the Calatrava travel time pilots 5524G with the black dial is currently being bid at $42,050 with about 9 hours to go. And there is also a buy it now option that is set at $47,700 US dollars, of course. Well, I mean, the reason I'm saying, of course, is because it does openly say USD. Obviously, we have more than one currency that's called the dollar. We have two nice examples of Patek's first reference of the annual calendar. This piece was introduced in 1996 when Philipp Stern was still the president of the company. The idea was to render the prestigious perpetual calendar in a simplified and more accessible manner. And they achieved that with the reference 5035 that you see here in yellow gold with an opaline white dial. The piece has applied Roman numerals and a set of leaf-styled hands that are all inlaid with luminous material. Sweep center seconds. A day-night indicator at 6 o'clock in the form of a microhand for the 24 hours. At around 2 o'clock, you have a subdial for the month. At around 10 o'clock, you have a subdial for the day of the week. And in the form of an opening, a date window. At 6 o'clock, you have the date. This is again very much a piece in the old school Calatrava mold. Therefore, it has a case in 37 millimeters. And the piece comes with a Patek Philippe tank buckle in matching material. That's lot 32. There is a buy it now option set at $25,000, but the current bid stands at $18,750. In the neighboring lot, lot number 31, you have the same reference number, this time with a 37 millimeter case in pink gold and a black dial. To me, this is a much more attractive watch. I think the gilt writing on the dial, on the black dial, makes it at once more legible, but also simply adds it a certain vintage charm, as gilt writing tends to do, especially against the backdrop of a black dial. Of course, you have those three pushers that sit flush with the case for the quick correction of calendar functions. The hallmark of Geneva on the movement, and the matching tank buckle that accompanies the watch. In this case, you have perhaps a more desirable iteration of the same reference. The watch, however, is naked, unlike the yellow example, unlike the yellow gold example at lots 32. However, the bidding and the pricing reflects perhaps the relative desirability of this version. With about 9 hours to go, the piece is currently being bid at 27,300, with the fixed price for the buy it now option set at 36,350. Hey, Oz. Nice to see you, man. Feel free to jump on, man. I know you are usually busy around this time. I know it's also late, but if you have the energy, if you have the time, it would be great. Hey, thank you. I think I just wish we had more time so we could do a little more banter. But you know, when we do those particular shows, I always want to, you know, restrain myself and refrain from talking too much. Try to be less interruptive, even as I also try to find a way of reining in the professorial energy, because you know our common friend, he truly is one of a kind, but he is also part of that lecturing species, right? You know, once he gets going, he might be able to go for 6 hours himself, just as I do sometimes. Now, we have looked at some examples of the annual calendar, and I think we also looked a little bit at how that is combined with the chronograph, but I always like shining particular light on this model, because as a reference, it is truly one of my favorites when it comes to contemporary Patek. I might have to use the word contemporary advisedly in this particular case, because 5960 specifically has also been discontinued. Now, it's been almost 4 years, in fact. Of course, there is the 5961, which is the afterlife of this model, with a gem set, with a diamond set bezel. And there's also the 5905, which is the reference that follows the 5960 that you are looking at right now. The 5960p, so the 5960 was introduced in 2006 for the first time in platinum. As you can tell from that, it was the occasion of the 10th anniversary of the annual calendar. And this particular combination, I think, is as remarkable as the perpetual calendar chronograph was in 1941 with the introduction in serial production of the reference 1518. Because just as 1518, in the form of a wristwatch that scaled right under 36 millimeters in diameter, brought these complications into a wearable, usable, everyday formats, the 5960 did the same for a different time period, offering relative accessibility, especially as this reference started to be offered in different metals. Obviously, the 5960A in stainless steel, therefore, with the matching beads of rice style bracelet was quite a hit, and remains, I think, relatively accessible for what it is, even after its discontinuation. But I really find something to love about for just about every single variation of this reference. And they do all offer, I think, a different aesthetic, a different wearing experience. They're almost different watches. Like the great example for this is, of course, the white gold version, which has a beautiful blue sunburst style. And it is styled like a pilot's watch as well, down to the, tan calfskin brown strap that is chosen for it, down to the buckle. And it also, that particular one, the 5960G, it also has pushers that are styled like the famous Patek Philippe Tasti Tondi, the reference 1463, which has this conical top with a fluted finish. Of course, we are looking at the 5960 now, which has an anthracite gray sunburst dial, 2 pump pushers. It has that crosshair style single chronograph register, which integrates in the form of concentric circles a 12-hour counter with that blue pointer. There's a puncture there, a porthole opening, which is a day and night indicator as well. And then the 2 outer circles add up to a 60-minute counter, 60-minute totalizer, with the first 30 minutes shown on the outermost circle, and with 30 to 60 inscribed in red, I should say, with 30 to 60 shown in the inner circle and inscribed in blue. There's also a power reserve indicator in the form of a plus minus at around 12 o'clock above the brand signature. And the annual calendar in this case is laid out between 10 and 2 o'clock in the form of 3 asymmetrical openings, aperture, with the dates at 12 o'clock, the day of the week at 10 o'clock, and the month at 2 o'clock. The chronograph movement is a modern one. It is, in fact, a movement that was introduced with this watch, with this reference, the 5960P. It's Patek's in-house self-winding movements with the flyback functionality. And since it is a column wheel vertical clutch mechanism, the centrally deployed chronograph seconds hand, you might as well simply use it as a sweep center seconds hand with. Hey, Oz.
G'day, how you doing?
Great, man. Nice to see you. I don't get to see you that much, so I appreciate also your patience. You know, I may have talked for 10 minutes, 10 seconds. I don't know.
No, it hasn't been that long. Yeah, well, good to see you. And yeah, again, great show with the professor. Those Morgan Stanley reports are really good on the industry. Not necessarily because of their timeliness or their how would you say hugely insightful. Like, are there like huge surprises in there? Not really, but at least they're factual. You know, as in so much of the things that we see are about, you know, everything's, you know, when everything was hype, like all the ratings would go to anyone who said everything's a rocket. And then when things were going down, they were really sliding down very slowly. And everyone's saying like the watch market's dead. And reality is just way more boring than that. You know, I did the market update series just out of interest, you know, as things were going down. Okay, if I could report it honestly, is it interesting? No, it was super boring. I persevered through like 9 videos just looking at the price movements varying by $1,000 on $100,000 portfolio. It's like
But
it's not that interesting.
yeah, well, I mean, you know, that's you never know. You know, there is Auden, one of the greatest American poets, has that verse, you know, that basically amounts to poetry is when nothing happens. So sometimes not much happening adds up to something much more profound than you expect. And in this case, it is the insight that a lot of the content that is generated online, and especially on YouTube in the video formats, just fans the flames in one way or another and creates so much distraction where things are mostly going on as you know, business as usual, so to speak. The reason I like it a lot of times is because, I mean, I know you wear many hats, Aussie, but one of the hats that you at least wore in the past is a finance guy, and I know jack shit about finance. So for me to read these kinds of reports and see a lot of my gut feelings, insights, and analytical opinions confirmed by a third party who works through very different methods than I do. For me, it's important. It keeps me honest because once every so often it does, you know, throw me an insight or something that I can't know because I don't necessarily have the same access. So I'm happy to learn that. And I also find, like, you know, beyond the sheer numbers and charts, they always have an addendum or a section at the end. I'm sure you are familiar, that has focus on X, and they basically take discrete brands and usually highlight things that they are doing right. And when that happens, you know, again, you don't want to say correlation equals causation, of course. But when that happens, you then see in the next 2-3 years the entire industry kind of tending towards those, like, you know, like everyone tries to be, for example, what was glorified, what was valorized about Audemars Piguet already some years back by this report, which was how lean they have become in terms of their own distribution, right? You know, how they basically shrunk everything down to a network of monobrand boutiques and also their AP houses. So now they basically only have AP boutiques, some of which are run by the corporates, but others mostly run by some of their established partners, authorized dealers, but as single brand boutiques, and their own AP houses. They basically have barely anything else at this point, and that's the model that everyone is trying to copy now. So it teaches you interesting things, and it has that sort of foresight. It has that sort of kind of forecast that you sometimes have to see in a concentrated form, if only because people read and do certain things in the actual market, in the actual industry.
Yeah. So as sort of like a caveat to this style of report, these are like written by typically like really junior analysts. Typically, like I'm not exactly sure who these people are, but in general, these kinds of reports that are publicized typically are done by like very junior finance people who likely, just because of, you know, they're juniors in finance, they're unlikely to know much about their target industry at all. Now, because the watch market's been so hot in recent years, and maybe because there's certain finance people that are also actually interested in watches themselves, this is like their moment to shine, there may be people who are more qualified to participate on this. But in general, this type of research is really just PR for the bank, and sort of a way to entice customers to the bank, and not necessarily, how do you say, no one relies on these reports, basically. Like, they're not making trading decisions based on this. They're not, you know, no one's making money off the insights in this, typically. Like, that's not, if they were, if there was real monetary value, they wouldn't provide it for free. You know what I mean? So this is really just it's basically YouTube, but for, you know, slightly different reasons. You know, it's not, it's like, that's the reality of sort of like investment bank research
I love
into
it.
industries.
I don't doubt this. I mean, the only thing is, of course, and which is something they freely admit, obviously they have, or they want to have, a lot of these brands, a lot of these manufacturers as their clients, and it does happen. That's what I was saying in the last show. Deloitte, who religiously and regularly produces these kinds of reports, is rumored to now represent the Sandoz Family Foundation for the sale of Parmigiani Fleurier. If, again, the reports in and of themselves might not mean much, but the fact that Deloitte has been regularly producing these reports at least gave them some burnish to be able to say, hey, you want to sell or merge your watch business with another one? Let us handle that for you. Let us take care of that for you. We know something about this industry by now. You can trust us. But that's, you know, honestly, Ozzy, again, this is you being an insider to that industry. It's demystified for you, so you can see how bunk some expertise is within it, but expertise in any other industry is not much different. It can usually be demystified and dismantled in the same way. I mean, political science is the same, fashion is the same. You know, when you get inside once, you become cynical almost immediately.
Yeah, that might be fair to say. That might be fair to say. I mean, like I'm not focusing on this report in general, but this type of report is there for the the Wolf of Wall Street guys, basically. You know, the conversation between Leonardo DiCaprio and oh geez, I just watched a movie with him the other night. Long hair. He's in Contact. Wanted to be the Hulk. Anyway, like they're talking at the lunch table, and
Yeah,
and
I
he's
remember that.
like, it goes up, it goes down. It's fugazi, if Gaza, what type thing. But basically, the whole purpose of a bank is to get the customer and to give them their money to the bank. How they actually make money hasn't got anything to do with whether or not the industries that they talk about go up or down. So they're not really invested in this. This is a way of showing their clients, like, oh, you want to know where the smart money should go in these industries. If you had an opportunity to invest or something like that, well, talk to us. So it's and as you point out, the other side could be the sell side as well, where they're representing the company or something like that. But yeah, it's really a type of PR, and how they monetize is just slightly different. So it could be anything in there, but it's none of even if there is expertise, it's never going to be, how would we say, insightful enough for you to make money on, because if they were that good of an analyst, they would have their own money in it. They'd be telling their sweetheart clients, it's not going to be something they just publish.
I love it. No, you're right. You're right. I have nothing to say about that. Nothing to add except to say ditto.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I do like the factual reporting though. It pains me, but Tudor's gone down, and Breitling's gone up. If you look at Breitling's movement over the last 5 years, man, they've really kicked ass. And I don't know, I know there's a lot of Breitling fans out there in the watch community.
Mm-hmm.
They don't seem to be as vocal. Certainly on YouTube, I almost never see Breitling in anything, quite frankly. Like,
Because they are, I mean, certain trends. They're beaten up. Someone hates Breitling, so everyone hates Breitling.
I think it's just sort of like tag, where the mainstream crowd still like really loves Breitling. Like they remember like from the 2000s that, oh, Breitling's really good or something, and they were really kicking ass back then. And I just guess that these sort of brand impressions, they're hard to shake off.
For
And I'm
me,
not saying they deserve less. I'm just saying, like,
yeah.
they're definitely overperforming, I think, considering the price of their releases, and not their releases full stop. They release good quality, nice looking watches, but the price level is just astonishing to me.
For me, it's Breitling is a success story because it has been able to shake off actually some of the bad rep. Because I have my socialization into collecting watches and into taking watches seriously has happened at a time when it was the height of the so-called Schneider era, the previous ownership, where they were making, where Travolta's, hobby of flying, and that's not a euphemism for other things that he does, was, a great advertisement for the brands. They used to make like, giant pilot watches, seemingly the only thing that they did, high polished, garish, obnoxious. I hated it. But I knew at the same time that they had made, in the same era that Rolex had their legendary chronograph, Omega had their legendary chronograph, Breitling too had their legendary chronograph in Navi Timer, and the real provenance, and all this genuine association with not only aviation but also racing, because I was obsessed at the time, at least, and still to a certain extent, with Lotus cars, so on and so forth. Graham Hill and Jim Clark both wore Breitling, so on and so forth. So for me to have them shift at least partial focus to bringing back some of that heritage in stuff that is more or less faithful recreations of that period, as they have been doing with Georges Kahn's leadership and Fred Mandelbaum's advisor/historian role. It's been amazing, and I've been loving it, actually. And I think, again, this is purely anecdotal, but I think it also shows that carrying that mainstream support and customer base, you can go a lot higher and do a lot better if you also start doing stuff that caters to people like us, who are a little more nerdy, a little more invested in history and horology, and suddenly you have a different perception. And you can have you can have your cake and eat it too, because they still have a lot of those oversized watches in their catalog that you can still buy. So they cater to that clientele. They have not completely alienated them, but they can turn to us and say, hey, we have been doing all these reeditions. We even bought, Universal. We are really committed to this. We are the world's, most storied chronograph maker, and we are going to deliver on that as well. So it's a success story for me because of that. A Tudor, don't you think that reflects also the kind of rumblings and feelings that we had for the last couple of years, like, the slight downturn they have noted?
I mean, certainly from the secondary market values of Tudor, you would say, okay, there's a corollary there where you would say, for example, Black Bay 58, probably the most liquid watch on the market, full stop, honestly, not even just like, even if you throw it up against Rolex, Black Bay 58 is pretty liquid. I just mean, like, that's how many times it's traded, not saying how much profit or loss, but just like, I'd say they're traded pretty rapidly, mostly on eBay, it seems. And so while the value has gone down, that sort of makes sense. But what wouldn't make sense is, for example, I don't think there's any Breitlings that traded over retail at any point on their upward swing, right? So really, retail sales seem to be a product of marketing and brand, and Tudor doesn't have it, really. So the thing that I see with Tudor is that there is a very well defined, effectively a fan base for Tudor, and they will clamor to get their hands on pieces that they love. But once this fan base has been satisfied, there really isn't much demand for that watch anymore. And that's what everyone's always said, oh, just wait a few months and then it'll be fine, or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think, just sort of at scale for the brand as a whole, what it means is that if they go through a year of stellar releases, they're going to be doing very well. So that was definitely the case in 2022. 2023 arguably was a pretty dour year in terms of releases, because I think we got The Alinghi Red Bull Racing FXDs, which were super limited, so it doesn't really matter how much people want them or didn't want them. They're very, very limited. And then the FXD Black, most people don't care about that watch. I love it, so I'm not
Yeah.
criticizing it. So the reality is that the watch releases this year didn't get their fan base stoked up to buy another round of 1 or 2 watches. So I would see Tudor coming to Watches and Wonders this year with another year like 2022, where they just deliver some crowd pleasers. So I would expect a lot from Tudor at Watches and Wonders, and there's a lot of ideas that we can talk about that they could
Yeah.
deliver on. But long
And we should.
term, it could be
Maybe.
quite bad, though. It could be quite bad because a brand that's relying on just sort of like creating new releases every single year to stay alive and, basically revamping 30% of their catalog every year or something like that, which is what it could get to. If you could say to be effective, they need to revamp like about 30%. That that isn't good for the brand long term, in my opinion, to just have just this constant release cycle where things are just never stable. Things aren't evergreen.
Yeah, the thing is, I mean, obviously they have genuinely come up in the last decade in establishing their own street cred, so to speak. Their own boutiques, of course, have a lot to do with that. Um, but there's still something about Tudor that seems to be tethered to Rolex and the perception of Rolex's brand value and how that equity operates in the secondary market. That is pretty hard to shake off in the sense that you have said this many times. You have pointed this out many times that a lot of times people who buy Tudor are not only people who aspire to Rolex, but people who have sometimes entire collections of Rolex, because they're inspired by a particular historical nod or authentic reflection that they see from that tool watch history that Rolex has and Tudor shares. So I'm hopeful about the next decade, because I feel like they're finally venturing out of just living in Rolex's and Beckham's shadow. I think they will find other ambassadors. I'm not talking about just getting your watches on another celebrity's wrist. We don't care, right? I know we don't care. I know that's not very important. I'm even skeptical that the public cares. But
I mean, it does matter. I mean, I was talking to a layperson over dinner today about, like, I showed him the Icopod watch with the Apple Watch band, like from 1997, and and I said, like, look, if the Apple Watch didn't come out, that watch would basically have no relevance, and it's like merely 25 years old or something like that. If you imagine that there's some product that was produced for 4 years from 1912 to 1916, and then there's no relevance ongoing to pull you into it, then no, like it clearly does matter that, say, like Frank Sinatra used this or something like that, and so there really does need to be a way to pull in the interest contemporarily, um, for something to stay relevant as a collectible or in the mind share of the collecting base.
yeah, I was going to say that I think if they can find other people, and I think Beckham does a pretty convincing job with that, who can more authentically resonate with what they think they represent as the brand, I think that's actually pretty convincing, right? You know, someone who uh, is engaged in athletic and adventurous pursuits, but does it with style. That's
Hmm.
basically how I can summarize David Beckham. Um, if they can find more people like that, which I think the venture into Formula One is interesting, we can again, you know, talk a little bit about that, and in terms of new watch releases specifically. Um, but at least it's something. At least it's another attempt, right? You know, we will do something of our own, and we will actually lean in into our underdog persona rather than simply being an understudy to Rolex.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, and like with the ties and everything you're talking about, like I mean, ultimately it's marketing and the values of a lot of watches, including like genuine vintage watches like 4 digit Submariners and stuff like that. That rides heavily on the fact that Rolex is continuing to spend a huge amount of money on marketing. So this isn't about like necessarily like the like a lot of these quote unquote vintage products don't literally stand on their own. You know what I mean? Like all of that marketing that goes into Rolex does trickle into their brand's catalog over in the past and not just their present catalog. It's not like their current branding is about like, oh no, look, you just want 2023 released Rolex one ever. Like they're typically not doing the Apple sort of planned obsolescence ideas. Like you got to get the newest one, like 100%. And with the CPO program, they clearly now have a lot to recoup monetization, that their marketing was overflowing into their past catalog without any real money going to them directly, apart from servicing perhaps. So now they've got they're capitalizing on all of that money that they're putting out every time. Sorry, what's this? This is news to me.
So they Daniel Ricciardo and Yuki Tsunoda have been wearing the ceramic with a special blue dial, but
Oh.
I think they have been waiting for their actual team watch, and I have a feeling that Watches and Wonders might be a great platform to introduce that and the new Tudor chronograph that I want to say everybody, but you know, some people have been waiting for the revival of the big block.
Hmm.
What do you think about that? That would that be the kind of release that you're talking about that might give them some shine?
It it seems inevitable that another chrono will come about because of that new movement that appeared in the Alinghi Red Bull Racing chrono FXD. I don't know what the name is. All those words are applicable. Um, um, that being said, the Black Bay Chrono has been very popular, and of the watches that don't appear in cases very often, the FXD Blue, Marine Nationale, and the Black Bay Chrono Panda. It'll be interesting if the Black Bay Chrono Panda disappears without much fanfare, or if it disappears and is replaced by something very different, considering how successful it was. Um, I don't think they'd want to kill it off just yet, but they may not have a choice based on whether or not they're getting movements from Breitling. I asked for a Black Bay Chrono. Mind
Yeah.
you, it was like less than a week's notice, and they couldn't do anything for me. Although this wasn't my AD, this was the Tudor Boutique. But
I
I
see.
would have half expected Tudor Boutique could get anyone what they wanted if they knew that they had to take them seriously.
Well,
Um,
that's the that does sound weird to me, Oz, because the two Tudor boutiques that I know in Southern California, the one in Century City and the one in Costa Mesa, they have been pretty reliable. I really do think that might be a sign that it's getting discontinued. And just a minor correction, the Alinghi FXT Chrono has the same MT
Oh, it
5813
does.
movement. It's the Breitling 01. It's this one that's on the screen now that was
Oh,
made for
okay,
the Only
okay.
Watch that has the prototype movements. That's the MT59XX, as they called it at the time. That's a Kenisi movement that
Yeah.
they have developed, and its layout reflects very much the, like, at least on the dial, it reflects pretty closely what the big block was, and that was built on the Valjoux 7750. So the reliance on B01,
No, you're
I
right.
think,
Yeah.
is done basically. And if they could make this and it was a functional watch um, in time for the Omni Watch, they might be ready to already launch the Chrono, in April. But of course, unlike Rolex and unlike some other brands, Tudor, when they launch a watch, they launch it, right? You don't have to
Yeah,
wait
it's
months.
available day one. Yeah.
It's available. So that's something that's on the back of my mind. Maybe it's not gonna make it, but I think it will actually. And maybe we might also get two. Like, we might get the usual production line, and we might get the RB, what is it, Visa Cash App RB team watch. We might get that as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, so I got to see the Alinghi Chrono in person. I didn't get to see the time only one just because I didn't express interest. But it's actually a really good looking watch in person. The blue is a lot more subtle and darker in person than it is in the photos, making it a lot more versatile. I think it really is a pretty good looking watch. Had I known it had the B01 movement, I may have bought it, but my wife would have killed me. She she expected me to get the Black Bay 36, which is what I did get her. But yeah, this actually is a very, very fetching watch in person. It's just very difficult for me to have more than one FXD, I think. Like, I've already got more than one Pelagos. I think having more than one FXD seems a little nuts. Um, yeah, I don't know. This is ultimately a pretty expensive chrono, considering I think the Black Bay chrono is $5,500, and that means this has it's only a reduction price by like $300. Meanwhile, the FXD is like, I think between the FXDs, I think it's like a few $100s cheaper to get the carbon one. But yeah, let's see here. So an FXD is 4150, and then the carbon one is 3850. So $300 difference. And then let's go check the steel chrono. Steel chrono 5550. So it's still a little bit of a difference, but yeah, I don't know. They're both big. I guess the actual Panda Chrono, Black Bay Chrono, is a smaller watch. Technically, it's 41 millimeter, not 43.
Mm-hmm. Well, the funny thing about the prototype slash one of a kind piece that I got a chance to look at when they were touring it here for the Only Watch auction that got called off later. It was absolutely like it was a gold bullion basically. This was actually
Mm.
in 18 karat gold case and bracelets, and it was as thick as the old big blocks. It was as thick as the BB chronos as well. So I genuinely got the sense that that was very intentional. um I don't think they, yeah, I don't think, I really think that they will always remain, at least in terms of their product development, somehow tied into Rolex, because they don't want to take away in any way business from Rolex. That's for
Yeah,
sure. So they can't make
that's a good
make an
point.
elegant thin chronograph.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I mean, with the 126-500, now with the steel outer bezel and everything, it looks very much like the Black Bay Chrono now. It's like you guys got to discontinue that. You can't keep making that. It looks way too similar.
Yeah. Now imagine now they, especially after your comment, they removed the bezel ring from any future Tudor version. Just an exposed aluminum bezel.
Yeah.
That's it.
Or Tudor's allowed to go to full Cerachrome bezel like the 116-500.
Right.
You stay close, but not the same.
Yeah. Yeah, but this was an amazing one. It was actually one of the, I mean, it was heavy. If, even for an all gold watch, it was heavy. Like you see how I'm shaking here? It was it was because of the weight.
Well, I mean, there's a few other brands that make some really heavy gold watches. I remember a Breitling I held last year. It looked like it was like 47 millimeters, and it was gold, and it was like a friggin' brick.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I like what they're saying here. It's Tudor does things its own way. After all, that's what being born to dare is all about. The new Visa Cash App RB partnership speaks to that. Slapping the Tudor name on a winning car is easy, is it? But choosing the right team to support is another story. It means supporting the team that shows promise, shares a daring ethos, and a fighting spirit. One that's ready to take on the challenge of racing to the front of the pack from behind. I mean, it's, as far as marketing goes, this is decent copy. You know, I have to give the chapeau to them. This is good. But on that point, right? Because the obvious reference here is slapping the Tudor name on a winning car is easy. So instead, you went to the second tier team of the winning car, which is sponsored by Tag. I mean, Red Bull has Tag. Red Bull B team has Tudor now. So that seems to me kind of shaky ground for them. I mean, I like, again, I like the fact that they ventured into this sort of partnership. Did they choose the right team, especially because their first team is sponsored by Tag Heuer? Not sure about that.
I'd say maybe this is one where they're sort of like angling for the main team eventually. Maybe we'll see.
That's
Maybe
just
it's just a little bit of a tryout.
just like Tsunoda and Ricardo are trying to get that second Red Bull seat. You're absolutely right.
Mm.
Which
Yeah, it
they
might
probably
might be
never
just a
will.
little bit of a tryout.
You're absolutely right. Maybe that is the case. Maybe they will somehow. I don't know when Tag's contract with Red Bull expires. So
Yeah. So one of the things that will come from being a sponsor partner of the Formula One team is basically like access to the team boxes and stuff at all the events, and
mm,
tours of the pit garage and stuff like that. So I got to experience that when the F1 was here in Vegas with Mercedes. But for the sponsoring, for the sponsor, they really have to evaluate whether or not it's delivering value. How they determine that, ultimately they need to try it out to some extent. And so maybe a year with being a sponsor, see how it goes, because I don't think Rolex sponsors any team, right?
No,
So
you're right.
so they may not genuinely know whether or not this kind of deal makes any sense as a watchmaker.
Yeah, you're right. Maybe it is a trial run of sorts. But now that there are three tracks in the US and maybe people want to get into that Formula One action, Tudor might be a gateway for that. Although again, it's not an extremely exclusive brand um, to provide that for all their customers, but they're always
Yeah.
VIPs.
The thing, yeah, the thing that would be hard to say about it is like, okay, so they take a VIP to that, but what does a Tudor VIP even mean? I mean, it's like they they purchased the Black Bay 58 in gold. The one guy is like, oh shit, we got to take him around the world now.
Right, right. That's it. But Mr. Tudor to you. You know that Archieverse character. He
Hmm.
has
Hmm.
he has like every single thing that Tudor has ever released, basically, and before
Wow.
this recent regeneration as well. So it's possible he can be. I think he can be a true Tudor VIP. I'm sure there are a few. Um, wow. Yeah, what do you think about what do you think about Moza sponsoring Alpine or Alpine?
Oh, really? They did?
Yeah.
Wow. They're gonna find out. Like, it's gonna be like I wouldn't guess whether or not these sponsorships were worthwhile. Only brands like IWC and Tag, who have been doing it for quite a while. Richard Mille, obviously, have also been doing it for quite a while. Will have a good sense of whether or not this is actually making a return. Does the access that it provides make any sense for for attracting their customer base? Um, I would guess it really doesn't matter. It like I don't know. I, I think some of the watches that comes out of it can can be interesting. Like, I've seen two Gerard Perregaux for Aston Martin team.
Mm.
Both are very, very fetching. Like, but I mean, Gerard Perregaux, once they set their mind to do something cool, they end up with something cool. It sort of doesn't really matter whether or not there's a car brand on
But
it.
but that also speaks to what you said just a second ago. Uh, Girard Perregaux GP has been in this business for a long. They used to make the Scuderia Ferrari watches. They used to make
Oh,
the watch
really?
Ferrari. So they do know how to benefit, how to maximize that sort of association um, for a while now. So maybe you are right. Maybe you need to do some trial error, maybe take a few missteps along the path until you really hone that kind of collaboration. But this is like they got a very prominent place on the car.
Yeah.
I
Wow.
mean,
Must be very expensive.
for that kind of sponsorship,
But
at least
look,
that's pretty
here's
good.
how it translates to Moza though. They get the access to the boxes and stuff like that. I spoke to one of the owners of Moza, and the reason he was in Vegas was to take like 12 of their VIPs to the U2 concert at the Sphere. You know what I mean? So those kinds of events for, very high-end VIPs is something they're spending a lot of money on anyway. If they can spend that money, get that, and basically they're going to want to have those experiences available to say their VIPs. Well, next step is just well, we're going to pay for that access for our VIPs. That's what they're primarily paying for. It's like, well, if we paid for that, what do we get on the car? It's like, oh, you happen to be plastered right on the middle of the car. It's like, oh, okay. But it might be an afterthought for them from the perspective like they already just want access to the pit lane and that sort of experience for their VIPs around the world. It makes a lot of sense just from those ticket perspectives. I just hard to understand that being true for Tudor, where it's like they see it as crucial to their business to be able to take their people to events that they couldn't otherwise get access to even with money. So like that's the hard sell is what I think is. For Moser it makes sense. They've got that client base they have to entertain. That just doesn't happen at Tudor, I don't think.
That's true. And but that's really the thing at the level, or at the niche rather, where Moza is playing the game, because you really have to nowadays, especially in a downturn of the markets, you have to find ways of giving added value to people who actually buy your watches at retail. Sometimes directly to you, even from your online boutique, which Moza does, by the way, even preserving certain models or releasing certain models through their online channels first. So for people who are paying the full ticket price for your watches, you have to give some sort of added value, and just a tour of the manufacturer, which used to be only reserved to be the VVVIPs in the past anyways, and it's not anymore. Just that doesn't even cut it anymore. You have to really have this sort of global experiences, sometimes even tours. Like, it's I heard that Stefano Ricci, the Italian luxury brand, uh, which I think also has watches, but that's beside the point. They have these tours and safaris and whatever, where they take some of their VIP customers, and I think it's really heading in that direction. You have to provide some special, exclusive luxury experience to your customer if you really want to sell watches at that level with these price tags.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's certainly the case for Richard Mille. Like you're seeing like boxes and booths over it, and Rolex too. Rolex do have their own booths and stuff like that. Um, I wonder what Tag does. I wonder what Tag does. I'm guessing for Tag it may be just LVMH VIPs and not necessarily Tag VIPs.
Yeah.
I know that Arnaud, how do you pronounce his name? Arnaud.
Arnaud. Yeah, Arnaud.
Arnaud. I know Arnaud was actually in town for the Las Vegas event. There was a new Tiffany's opened up at the Wynn, but really they were there for the Formula One, and I believe there were a lot of events for LVMH VIPs. I would find it hard to imagine that the Tag partnership was limited to Tag buyers.
Right.
It'd be highly limited, but not limited to Tag buyers, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it's also, again, Tag and Tudor are very comparable. So I'm glad you mentioned that. But in the same way, maybe Tudor's access won't be limited to just Tudor buyers either. But if it is, in the same sense that Tags perhaps, at least to a certain extent, is, that could be an interesting area to explore. I will try to snoop. I will try to see what
Who gets in?
yeah, what being a Tag Heuer VIP does for you in terms of having access to the Red Bull team.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. I
I'll
don't
try to find that
I
out.
don't know anyone who buys tag, so I don't know. I don't know who I would try and hassle. I find it hard to believe that like the little tag boutiques that are here in Vegas are really fostering, those sort of high-end clients. Honestly, it just doesn't. Yeah, I don't know. um, yeah, it's just hard to imagine like what exactly that relationship's like. Um, I know for Rolex, for instance, like the VVIP level for the Formula One, uh, nobody from Las Vegas.
Mm.
Like I wasn't in the running, and nor was anybody else that you
Except
know.
Wahlberg, perhaps. No, Mark Demage.
maybe, maybe,
He's from
yeah,
Vegas now.
yeah, I know. Well, I don't think I don't. Yeah, even if he was on the list, he didn't go. So I mean, didn't go to Formula One, but wasn't within the Rolex VIP sort of thing. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what it takes. It obviously was a very exclusive event, more
Maybe.
exclusive than say like the US Open. Like I know people, I know that Rolex has booths there, and that doesn't seem as crazy. Um,
So fellow VIPs have been invited to the U.S. Open. You're saying,
oh, I've seen them on YouTube.
right?
Like it's not. It seems a lot more. It's clearly like way above, but not significantly different to being invited to like the horse jumping events for Longines.
Right.
So, there's a selection and availability made to certain vendors and stuff like that. And the vendor gets to choose who of their people, they get to offer it to. While I'm guessing Formula One, that was like only head office got to choose. It's like only people who are known to head office were the people that would go. It wasn't about like let's reach out to our ads in the area and see who they would like to offer it to. It was a top down thing, not bottom up, basically.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting information. But again, that really is an incomparable brand for better or worse, right?
Oh, they got the glove.
Yeah,
I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, it's very effective on TV, but
yeah.
it's a bit silly, obviously.
It's extremely
I
silly. It's extremely silly. But they can't wear the actual watches, and somehow, like you said, this is probably more visible than any normal sized watch that you can have.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just advertising. It's just a little bit of a billboard.
Yeah.
But I tell you what's interesting is I wonder where on the wrist it's actually shown, because if you think like in terms of the cockpit view, that you're sort of looking on the insides of their hand a little bit. So it's only when they come over the top with the steering wheel do you actually see it.
Yeah.
I mean, could they just like put it on the inside, like wear it reverse?
What I mean, why not?
Yeah, I mean, like they printed it. It's not really like doesn't really matter. It's like that's not where the watch would go. It's like yeah, well, whatever.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, they could have gone. They could have gone anyway.
Oh man, I'm just pressing some buttons here on TurboTax, and I'm just like I think I need some serious help.
You're at that level now.
Yeah, I don't know. It's talking about carryover losses from last year, and I'm just like, there's like 7 fields that are completely incomprehensible. I'm like, come on, guy, if you didn't do it automatically, I'm not going to be able to help you.
Maybe it's time to get an accountant.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I think there's a way to get an official person to double check, but I'll check again tomorrow. But I'm on the final stretch of these stupid taxes. My God.
Yeah.
You done yours?
Yeah. What are you wearing?
Oh, I got the Hulk on today.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. It's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good
It's
for
the best.
technically my oldest luxury watch. Yeah. I was sort of hypothesizing when if they would bring back the Smurf. That
Right.
doesn't seem like a stretch to me. Like giving the blue dial back, because you still have a blue dial on the bluesy and the full gold bluesy. I mean, doesn't seem a stretch to me. I think a green dial on a steel watch again. It probably. I don't think they're going to be in a rush to bring that one back in, just because you know. I think they just overstepped the line with this one. Like, like it's too much special for just a steel watch. You know what I mean?
You're right. You're right. Um, you know that here's the thing. They used 2023 already for the Daytona. Um, and I understand and I respect that, because that's also the recognition on Rolex's part of saying, yeah, our ultimate icon now is the Daytona. Gone are the days where it was the Submariner, which now seems to trend, at least in terms of aspirations, even behind the GMT Master.
Mm.
But they have in the past, and this is a document that I saw today on Instagram in Graham Fowler's account. This guy is one of the biggest collectors of the Submariner, and especially mil spec versions. But this is the promotional material apparently they used in 2003 for the Kermit, so for the precursor of the watch that you are wearing. Which should put into rest all this nonsense about, like, the actual anniversary of it is actually 2024. It came out in 1954, not 1953, and whatever else. Although, of course, I'm happy to eat my hat, if they have changed it, and in 2024 they will say 1954 to 2024. 70 years of the Submariner or something. But yeah, this is what they did in 2003 when they were introducing the 16610 LV.
I wonder if they really care about the anniversaries.
Well,
I don't-
that's the thing. We were, I haven't seen this material ever before, and we were always taught, by our elders, that Rolex didn't care about anniversaries. But it's a different time now, right? So even then, seemingly they cared, at least on reserved occasions. But in an era where Rolex is, releasing watches to honor the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra, I think
Mhm.
you can expect some stuff for, like, meaningful anniversaries for their own models as well.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's time for a slight mix up on the Submariner. Now I know we got a whole new model in 2021, but I
Right.
think it could be a good time to give us one new model or something like that. I mean, it's not a completely wild time frame to do something different. I mean, we did get the Sprite in the GMT lineup, and the last time that was revamped was like 2018, I think. So about 4 years between 2018 and 2022. So yeah, something could happen.
Yeah, this is what you are pining for
Yeah,
these days.
just a Smurf. Oh my gosh. And I couldn't find a good comparison price. I mean, I found a 126619 LB, but not the 116619 LB. I know, I've seen this watch in person. In person, I'm just like, I'm in love, like just immediately.
I came this close because before the pandemic to get one that had a short bracelet, completely naked, authentic though. And I have small wrists, so the short bracelet was fine for me, at least for my own wearing experience.
Mhm.
And it was like 25K at the time.
Wow,
It
that's
was,
such a huge discount.
but that's the thing, like no one really cared, and no one really cared about this particular model either when it was actually as part of the lineup. Like even among submariners, this was probably the fourth or fifth one that came to mind. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
after the bluesy, after the two-tone bluesy, after your no nonsense, no date, after your date, it was like
I agree with that, but I have a couple of Submariners now.
After
This
the Hulk,
one,
of course. Sorry, what I mean,
yeah,
this was really barely making top five, basically.
right. Yeah, yeah. I think I would have ranked it exactly as you just did back then. These days, I'm a lot more gun shy from anything with yellow gold on it. So I'm not so interested in the bluesy and the full gold bluesy. And so this sort of comes into the third spot. Uh,
Let's run a little poll, man. It is we have to find a nice way to phrase it, but I wonder what the audience thinks of the 116619, right? That's what it is.
Yeah. I'd say it's worth like stacking uh, the Smurf 11619 LB against the yellow gold bluesy.
Mm.
Like they technically have the same colors in terms of bezel and dial, but um, what's really changing is the color of the gold. But they couldn't be more separated in terms of look and idea and feel. Like yellow gold on the Submariner, my gosh, it's just a crazy FU watch. That's what it is. Like it is not. It'll never hide, and it's just a completely outrageous watch. More so than even a Daytona in full gold or a day date, in my opinion. Just the Submariner in full gold is just it's so outrageous.
But that's perhaps part of the point,
Yeah,
right? In the sense that if you really want to go somewhere else with the sub, which is kind of your run of the mill sports Rolex, still, it might not be the hype, but it's still the core of Rolex professional line. You probably want to go all the way. And funny enough, this is the other downfall of this particular model. I do like the blue dial on this. They had reintroduced the two-tone, and I think also the full gold bluesy with a similar dial rather than the sunburst one. And they changed it, like, I think after 1 year of production almost immediately, because people were saying, oh, this is not the bluesy that we're used to, what did you do to our watch and whatever else. But the Smurf, the white gold version, got quote unquote stuck with this style, which makes it even more unique in a way. And I think this style specifically fits the muted look of this. Like it's white gold, but it's gold, but it's white gold, so it's still white metal. Has that blue that's unique to it, basically, except for the rare, short series of the yellow gold and two-tone versions. And I think I've always liked it because, again, I just like white metal sports watches that are not stainless steel. I mean, I love the stainless steel ones, don't take me wrong, but I feel like, this is such a nice subtle flex.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not really a flex at all. Like, almost nobody's going to understand what the hell it is, right? Like, there's basically no chance. So someone commented to the owner of this particular watch and was saying, does this scratch very easily? And he compared it to yellow gold, and he said he feels that it does scratch more easily than even, say, yellow gold, but it's far less apparent. So there's upsides there. I've seen a horrible version of this watch. I'm not sure. Like, there's a lot of CPO watches that just sort of look like, I don't want to be that guy that's really snobbish about polishing, because I'm no expert, but there's something about a lot of the used watches that just look, I don't know how to describe it. I put it down to polishing, but I don't know.
Do you have the link for that particular CPO?
No. This was quite a while ago, like more than 6 months ago. So no, I don't recall it. But I remember like looking at it up close and personal. Like, there were two examples that came through. One looked really soft, and the other one looked like I was almost going to pull out my credit card. It's just it like there's something that I feel when I see some watches, and I think most people wouldn't understand, because I feel it for watches that are really dull and boring. But I just fall in love with them like immediately, and I'm almost looking for an excuse to not buy them, really. And yeah, like the Smurf is one that I feel like really close to pulling the trigger on every time I see one. But it just in my head, I put it together. I'm like, I can't do it. Like, why? Like, I've got Submariners already. Like, why do I need a white gold Submariner in blue? Like, I've got the green. Like, isn't the green one cool enough? I mean, I don't know.
It's by the way, guys, the poll is now active. Is the Smurf worthy buy? Of course, I misspelled. I'm going to sleep already. Yes, just get it, and no, buy a real gold sub. And the two people who have voted until now think that you should buy a real gold sub. And please, if you're voting in the poll, hit the like button as well, because that really, really does help.
Yeah, I'm not the guy to wear the yellow gold sub yet. I don't know when that'll happen. So I've got someone who is my age, and he bought one, and like I warned him, like, are you sure? Like, it doesn't get more FU than this, and you cannot walk into a place and not be the biggest swinging dick in there, because you're not going to be able to hide.
Yeah.
And no, he just wanted it. He's Asian background. He wanted that watch. It's only like many months later, it's like, I got to find something a little bit more toned down than that.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. That I'm also the guy who even puts, I even put my vintage and near vintage stainless steel Rolex on a leather strap just to make it look more subtle. So I cannot for the life of me imagine wearing a yellow gold or pink gold watch with a full bracelet. Like it can only be for me a special occasion watch.
Hmm.
It
Yeah.
just feels too much. And I do love gold, by the way. I mean, I'm not.
Yeah, I do too. I like it. I think it's cool. It's just I can't do it.
Yeah, because I mean, there are some people who just don't like wearing gold at all. Like, they would
Hmm.
never wear, I don't know, they would never wear a chain, they would never wear a bracelet, they would never wear any kind of necklace. So for those kinds of people, I completely understand, if they don't also want a gold watch of any sort. But I actually like gold, even though I don't wear much of any jewelry. I like that tone. Um, but I can't, for the life of me, envision me wearing a full gold watch at any age as a daily. I mean, that seems too much.
Mm.
He wants to get another one though, right? Like not something instead. He wants something to wear for the everyday. Is that what it is?
Yeah, he doesn't regret it. It's just he realizes you can't actually wear that everywhere. You can't wear that into the office. Like his intention was to wear it everywhere. I was like,
Mhm.
he made an informed decision. Like I said, like this is really not the watch to be making a lot of friends with. I don't.
Well, you can't. I mean, you might be making some friends, but probably not the right kind. You can make all kinds of friends with a gold Rolex. Um, what they will ask from you, what they might expect from you, can be different from the kind of people we consider friends. Oz, I understand that.
uh,
It's
Meech might know.
Meech would know because he does have the Tony Soprano special for a while now. He has had that
Yeah,
Day 36 for a while now.
he wears it around town.
Let me see if he still has. I don't even. What does he go by now on Instagram?
Uh, no, I don't have Instagram, so
Oh, right, you don't. Ah, man, I don't even remember at this point. That's a shame. It's a shame we couldn't. Well, maybe he has something recent on Discord. He might have. That's
he
nice.
posted quite often on a wrist check. There's going to be a date in there.
Is So what happened with your Air King, man? You are
No, I'm
growing
just joking.
tired of it already?
No, I'm just joking. I was literally wearing it, so I can't be that upset about it. Woo.
Yeah.
See, the day date, I think you can wear just because it's so iconic. You know what I mean?
For every day?
Like, yeah, anyone can wear that. Like, it's just so iconic.
I think for every day um for Meech's age, you gotta wear the three stripes tracksuit to go with it. If you are gonna wear it every day.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
have to look like a wise guy, I think, if you are in your 20s still and wearing the day date as your everyday.
I mean, what's his name? Timberlake wore one in Happy in that music video.
Hmm.
He looked he looked pretty cool, pretty casual with it.
Is that Is that a dig at Meech? Because you know he doesn't like
No.
what he calls rappers jewelry.
Oh, okay. Well, you know, he's not that special, I guess.
That's very interesting. This was the
Yeah, the Alinghi Chrono. It looks really nice in person. Like it really does. Like that blue is a lot more subtle. The case and all the mix of colors because it's got titanium and you got a glimpse of my shoes there. I don't know if you can freeze frame. I got a pair of those giant shoes on. I'll go
the
get them.
babies.
Yeah, the baby shoes.
Oh, nice.
Hold on, I've got them in the garage, so I'll go get them.
Why not? Why not?
Yeah,
That's
so the Tudor uniform is like all black with white sneakers. So I wore black trousers with my white sneakers.
amazing. They, you Oz, I'm scared of you, man. Sometimes, like you're a master of psychological manipulation and mind games. When it comes to, like, you are the AD whisperer. It's strange. It's a special talent. Can you also tell them your recent Krispy Kreme AD experience while you're at it?
Wait, what do you mean?
Like how
Recent?
someone ran to you out of the woodwork to ask for donuts?
Yeah. So no, I mean it was really genuine. Like I've been going to the AD for years, and on occasion bringing some donuts, and I did recognize the guy, but we'd never actually. I don't know why we'd never actually talked to each other directly. I mean, I primarily just talk to my SA, but incidentally, I get to know everyone eventually. But this guy is like he went out of his way. Hey Eric, nice to see you here. I'm like I didn't know his name, and normally I know everybody's name, and I was like, okay, cool. And he goes, I don't think we've met, but I think I just want to say thank you for all the donuts. I'm like, okay, that's really good. I do really appreciate hearing that you guys actually like them, because I spend a little bit of time and I like them myself, and I hope they're well received. I was like, no, absolutely. I was like, so we had a good conversation about whether or not Randy's or Krispy Kremes are the go-to.
I have, for my part here, I have a place called Donut Friend, which is fully vegan. So I love getting donuts from them. That's what I usually take to the cigar lounge. That's what I take to friends. So it's an excuse for me to eat donuts as well.
So these are the super babies. So this is my regular shoe, and then these are the super babies.
Oh my god! Amazing.
They're fantastic. But in white, they're not the they're not the yellow gold Submariner. Like you can sort of get away with it. It just looks like a gigantic pair of shoes.
You should have just gotten the pink one to match with Mrs. Expat, no?
She's got them. Yeah. She's
No, I
got
mean,
them. We wore them.
I mean, pink one on a man would be, like a full
Oh,
dog.
oh, okay. Yeah, I guess so. They are beautiful enough that I think people would forgive a man for wearing those ones, but no, they're fun, but they're more art than they are shoes. So they really did hurt after, because there was like a watch collectors event on Saturday at the Buchera, and that was quite good, quite fun, seeing a lot of nerds. And yeah, by the end of my feet were killing me. I'm like, honey, like these shoes look great, but standing for like an hour or so in them is like, it's a little bit rough.
Oh yeah,
That
just
was
an
fun.
hour. Just an hour was rough.
I think we were standing in them for like almost 2 hours. Yeah,
Mm.
almost 2 hours. But it was a good event. Las Vegas Watch Society or something like that. But yeah, it was a good event. I got to speak to some people who have like, you know, very functioning Rolex relationships, and you know, mostly confirmed a lot of things I was thinking.
For example.
No real surprises. Things like the boutique having more access and more volume than the multi-brand. But it's not something I regret, because there's nothing I could have ever done, because you're not meant to have multiple AD relationships concurrently, and they would immediately find out because they're both under the same brand. So it's like,
Right.
you know, it would mean um, eschewing my relationship with my SA, which she delivered everything I ever wanted on. So there's no regrets, you know. So that like it may have been, say, a tailwind that I couldn't capitalize on, but for sure I never had any trouble getting a watch. So it's not a really big deal, but it kind of matters for the Platona. You know, it would have been a little bit easier for the Platona, not for the rest of my collection that actually matters. Like, no, I did the right thing, but for the Platona, yeah, it's, you know, it's still a pretty big deal. It's, you know, all the really special stuff does seem to go to the boutique.
So what's up with that quest? What's happening? Are you getting your platinum Daytona or what?
You know, my essay has always been very honest with me, and they had a good idea about, you know, where my account and relationship would be and what would be needed to get a Platona. But this was also before Platonas were even landing, so these are sort of like
Mm.
guesstimates. Now that some Platonas would have gone out the door, whether it's one, whether it's two, they'd have some concrete idea about what was in the running. Their estimate was basically accurate. So what they've told me that needs to happen, you know, is very um, is very accurate. So I'm I'm on the landing. You know, the landing strip is in sight basically, and
Okay.
not too much more has to happen. You know, there's
What does that
um,
entail in your case?
I won't go into it, but
Okay.
we're not. You probably won't see anything big from me purchased basically. like like it's either we're coming in for a landing, or something goes horribly wrong. But I don't think it's along the lines of like we're not even looking at the landing strip and there's a mirage or something like that. It's just, it
Mm.
really is just about um, you know, just the final touch up to the account, and then waiting for the right opportunity, whether that means timing, availability of certain
Mm.
things, and you know, um, where things are at. It's in the range of possibility, basically, is my understanding.
Okay.
Yeah, basically, yeah, it's all possible. Like it's not like I'm barking up the wrong tree. So so yeah, we'll see, we'll see. Like right now, like for example, I'm having to think like, uh, I don't want to get into that position before I go on holiday. Like I don't want to have to cancel a holiday because I get a call for a Platona or something like that. So it's in that sort of range where I think, you know, I'll
I'm
I'll I'll make the next step.
I hope Mrs. Expat wasn't watching, because you have basically admitted that you would come back home from a holiday to pick up your platinum Daytona, right?
I haven't thought about exactly like what would be the mechanics of it, but um,
If
I
you
would
can
have
make it
to.
happen, you would.
Yeah, I'd have to like a couple $1,000 in flights to go back to Vegas and whatnot. I think it would have to happen. It wouldn't be a pleasant problem, but it would have to happen. But I mean, if that happened, like she could stay on the holiday and I'll come back like a couple days later or something like that, between the flights and sorting things out.
With your platinum Daytona,
Hmm. Yeah.
which I'm sure she cares about dearly.
Yeah, she says like your panda looks better. I'm like, you might be right, but it doesn't mean I don't want it. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, there's not much left to get. I mean, so we were talking about Tudor before. I mean, that's one of the good things about Tudor is that honestly, Rolex's catalog isn't that deep. Like, I don't really understand the people who get into dozens and dozens of Rolexes. Um, it's just not that.
Says the guy who has a dozen, basically.
Yeah. Well, Rolex specifically, I think I've only got 6. Um,
Okay, half a dozen.
yeah, half a dozen, and then my wife's got 3. So it is an infinite.
I love you divided that. I thought, like, that doesn't sound right to me, but of course you count that as separately.
Yeah. um, but yeah, like for example, I met someone at the Watch Society who had literally dozens and dozens and dozens, and um, I get it. I get it, but I also don't get it. Like yeah, he had some amazing pieces, um, and I think he just likes the variety that still exists within Rolex, but it's a variety that isn't like wild, right? Like they're still going to carry the same movement even if you've got like a try to a day date, you know. Um, yeah.
No, I mean, you're right. Look, at some level, if you really want to be that dark, just like people say, oh, Tudor is all black bay, Rolex is all oyster, basically.
Yeah.
You have the Cellinis that have been discontinued. You have the new 1908. And other than
But
that, everything is basically oyster. Yes, of course, the
right.
cases are different, slightly differently shaped, different diameters, different side profiles, lug drops, etc. But essentially, it's the same watch. And that's a
Well,
strength, too. That's
yeah,
something.
it is a strength as well. Like the even if you have like a super special rare piece, it may have a movement from any other day date or a time only movement or something like that. And that's honestly a really workhorse movement still. So it means that you can take your very, very special collector's piece and just wear it and
Yeah.
just daily it for a while. It just doesn't matter. It's like it's gonna be easy to service, hard to break, and just go for it. But a lot of the times, special for other watch brands, yeah, okay, there's bling as well, but it sometimes means like very, very niche movements, which you know, I can't imagine the servicing costs.
Well, you don't have to imagine. I will tell you today. I was talking to a friend who is an AP collector and who sent his 2 limited edition watches, Royal Oak Offshore Barrichellos, one in platinum, one in pink gold. Counting tax and everything, I think altogether he paid almost 10,000 in US dollars.
What was wrong with them?
Basically nothing. It's like the So the one receipt that I actually saw was for the pink gold version, pink gold Barrichello, and it contained light polish, servicing, and the reset pusher for the chronograph had to be replaced, and that was with the VAT 3,850 euro or something like that.
Yeah, some heavy hitting.
Oh, sorry, that included a new strap as well. So let's be fair. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but I haven't. I've been hearing some. I've seen some RSC bills that aren't that pleasing these days. It seems like servicing a steel sports watch is in the order of 1,000 plus.
Yeah, that's Rolex now. Yeah.
Yeah. And nothing particularly, egregious or anything like that. We're talking like, okay, sapphire had to be replaced, service movement, that sort of stuff, and yeah, like just over $1,000. That struck me as being not quite what I expected. That being said, the longevity on these things is really, really good, and I've now worn this year my Explorer 36 more days than this year than in the previous 2 years collectively. So I've really worn my Explorer 36 a lot.
And you know that how, just to go back to our
I keep a
Tuesday
spreadsheet.
discussion. Well, if we go by what the professor said, he wasn't actually taking a stab at you, but people who kind of tabulate these things for investment value. Except the thing is, yours has that sort of component too, in the sense that you calculate how much they cost per day.
Yeah.
I think if you can
Yeah.
you pull up, is it too private, or can you pull up that
Yeah, I can bring it up. It won't be perfect because I'm not streaming from my computer. Yeah, I like to, I don't know, I just like keeping track of things, and like I do this for like my guns as well. Like if I take a few guns out, I note how many rounds went through them. It's just that like once something starts going wrong, you start like, I wonder how much I've actually shot that thing, or how long I've actually been wearing it. Then it's only once you need the data do you start like, oh, shit, I should have recorded that. So yeah, it's just a simple. Wait, I gotta add the Hulk for today, Thursday. There we go. So it's just a little table showing what watch I've worn on each day, and then there's like a summary on this sheet. Just looking at that. So number one watch is the Explorer 36.
Wow.
And then Hulk, Daytona. There's quite a few watches. I mean, it's still early in the year, so there's quite a few watches that have only been worn one day or less. My rule is roughly going to be that I'm not going to consider selling a watch unless for like 2 years straight it's sort of like underperforming in terms of like its use to value. Like, oh, we got Professor. We got
Compañeros.
Professor. I've summoned you with a spreadsheet. We've
Yeah, on the
summoned
way.
you.
What happened?
He pulled out the spreadsheet, and the professor appears. How are you
Professor
doing?
appears.
Take up. Hello.
Welcome.
I'm loving this new avatar. It doesn't look like you at all, Professor. Who is that new avatar?
This is El Professor.
Okay.
El Professor from the movie La Casa de Papel. You need to watch the movie.
Okay.
The series.
I've heard about that series. Never actually watched it. So there is a character called El Profesor there.
Yes, and that's how I got it.
Mm.
Not because I'm a professor, but my son said to me, "Dad, you are El Profesor like the movie." I said, "What is this guy talking about?"
And here I was thinking that you have a PhD and you're an economics professor. You know, and I'm sorry, I must have
You must have
must
missed
have
it.
mistaken you for someone else.
No, I do have a PhD, and by the way, my book is coming out. You will feel
What?
very encouraged to write one yourself.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
What am I going to write about? I want to write about watches, Professor.
watches. You will write about watches.
I just want to write about watch. that's
How to get a Platona.
Ah,
no, it's the other guy. How do we do it?
The platinum.
It's the other guy
platinum.
who's writing about that. Tell us, Ozzy, how do we get a platinum Daytona?
How do we get a platinum, please?
You bag, you plead, and you bring donuts.
Okay, so recently I was traveling, professor was traveling. Actually, I had to give a speech, believe it or not, which went well because I thought it's not going to go well. So I go into a store. The hotel was exactly smack next to the boutique of Rolex. In that city, they have one Rolex boutique. It's a very nice city. Well, no, I wouldn't say that. At least where I lived was very nice. Anyway, I go inside and I talk to the very nice gentleman, whatever, sales agent, SA, as Ozzy likes to say. And we started in conversation. I said to him, "How can I get a platinum Daytona?" I said, "Bring a platinum." He said, "For you, sir, we can do it."
Okay.
Okay. Immediately I thought of Ozzy. I said to him, "Do you have?" Because I like, young Brando, I like very much the white gold, blue bezel Submariner.
Right.
The
The new version
new,
of the Cookie Monster,
whatever,
as they
Cookie
like.
Monster. So I
By
said to
the
him,
way,
"Do you have this?"
was this country in the region?
No. It was in a
Not
very
in the region.
civilized. It was in a very civilized place.
The region is civil. The region is Dunya.
There,
Yeah,
yeah,
Professor.
Dunya is falling apart, as you know.
Dunya is the cradle of civilization. What are you talking?
Yes, this is Doctor. This is very important. This is very important. We make money when the dollar goes up. We make money when the dollar goes down.
Okay.
Anyway, whoever is
Alhamdulillah.
watching,
Let's
alhamdulillah.
go ahead with the.
So I ask him, "Do you have the cookie thing?" He says, "Of course. Wait a second, I'll bring it." I say, "Oh, this is very nice. Do you have the yellow gold?" Because professor also likes a little bit yellow gold, but how can I go to a classroom and I wear yellow gold? They'll think I'm trading in drugs and prostitution and women and men. So we need to keep the level at a certain. It's really funny. It's really funny.
That is the correct assumption, though. If you for that
It
one.
is. No, it is. I mean, so I said to him, "Give me the yellow gold," and he brings the yellow gold with a black bezel, not the bluesy, because a bluesy looks completely, "I am here to be robbed, and if you don't rob me, I'm gonna rob you."
Yeah, but I mean, it's because when you have the black dial, it's suddenly, the most subtle under the radar watch ever. But okay.
Yeah, it's more subtle than the bluesy. Huh?
Okay.
More subtle. Anyway, he brings out that one. I say, "Oh, it's very nice as well." He said, "Sir, you're very nice." Oh, I go, "Ho ho, now we have a thing between
Okay.
We got your professor. Oh man, I need to hear this story.
Me
No one
too.
tells a essay story like the professor.
Essay as in sexual assault or sales assault? Man, we lost him.
Oh
We
man,
genuinely did lose him.
we
Is
don't
he gonna
have the
come
end
back?
of that story.
It was just getting interesting.
Yeah.
No, because like the reason I said like is it from the heartland? Is it from our part of the world? Is because whenever I go anywhere in the Middle East and North Africa, it's like for you, for your face. This is usually what's safe, but for your face, we would do it, and then of course things. The story takes another turn, so you never know, and it's anyway. So I thought it was one of those stories, but it isn't. He said it was a different kind of country, and now I'm curious, but yeah, because what does it mean for you? We can do it. I mean, when in the next 5 years, when I when I buy the entire catalog, maybe you'll consider me for a platinum Daytona.
So I'm
And
just
of course,
doing my quick summary of all of. I'm doing like I've got a summary of each year, but now I'm gonna like do across all of the years.
Summary, as in you're writing something up about it.
Oh, just the watch use, like which ones
Okay.
were used when. But yeah, like doing all of the years together. But it's interesting, like the Explorer 36, it's as if I've like only just started wearing it. Like 2 years, 2 years after getting it, I'm only now like really, really wearing it. It went through its honeymoon phase basically, and it was sort of like an inverse honeymoon where I'm like, it's too pretty to put on.
Interesting.
So for the Eclipse, do I have to wear the Speedmaster?
Do you even wear it anymore?
I do. Like I badmouth it a lot, but if I look at last year, I wore it 20 days, which is a lot considering it's not that valuable of a watch. It's
Because that's usually what you privilege, right?
well, no, it's just sort of like like is it on the chopping block to be sold? And it's like, well, if it's on the chopping block, there's like a lot of other watches that I wore less compared to their value. So it's not going to make the chopping block. And as much as I badmouth it, it's like I still wear it, enough. Like 20 days is enough. Like what was I supposed to wear it? Like what was it supposed to be? 18 days. 18 days is how much it should have been on the wrist, but it was on for 20, meaning, it's still doing better than average. I mean, for its price, the Daytona is doing worse.
Ooh.
For its price. Yeah, like the Daytona I wore 59 days, but
for its
it's
market
worth
price.
way more. Sorry?
For its market price, you mean, or for the price you bought it?
Whether you call it market price or liquidation value, either way. Yeah, I mean, it's just sort of like opportunity cost. Like I could have 5 more Speedmasters for the price of a Daytona. I don't think that's the trade I'll do, but
I hope not.
Where's Professor? Damn it! I want to hear the end of the story.
Well, I mean, we have barely heard the beginning of the story. I don't know what was going on.
He came out with the disappointing the consolation prize gold submariner. We wanted to hear about the blue. Professor was like, "Where's the blue one? Where's the blue one?
Ah, man,
Get out of here with this garbage."
that's something you would say. Yeah, at least here on the live stream, he says stuff like that. I don't think he's the kind of guy who would say something like that to an essay. But
All right, I did not wear the Batgirl in these years. Wow, that's kind of crazy to think about. Yeah, I don't know. The GMT lineup doesn't do it for me. I haven't really clicked with the Batgirl. When I first started looking at Rolex and I said like, what's their current collection? What's the catalog look like? Which is the one that speaks to me the most? It was the Batgirl, but I got that like so early, and then I put it away. And now when I have it, I don't know. It's too flashy. It feels like a two-tone watch to me. This is sort of like the sports watch that was sort of gussied up a little bit.
well, the Jubilee bracelet with polished center links, forget about it. I mean, it's. I mean,
I don't want it in any other configuration, but you know, it is what it is.
I mean, in either or, it's. I think the polished center links already is a certain look that brings more attention to the watch, which is not something I've ever enjoyed, to be honest.
Mhm.
But I mean, Jubilee, just because it's that 5-link, 5-row look, there's more going on. There's more visual interest to it compared to the Oyster, even the Oyster PCL. So it makes it much more of a jewelry watch than it's as jewelry as stainless steel gets. Like, beyond
Yeah.
that, you have the Royal Oak in stainless steel.
Yeah, it's more jewelry than the Daytona, easily. Yeah, like Daytona's like, oh, whatever, but the Daytona is still pretty solid sports watch. Yeah, it's got polished oyster bracelet center links, but it hasn't really lost its character.
Which, by the way, it was the first to have that, with the 16520, which started off
really?
its life with the normal Oyster, and then I think a year into the production they gave it the polished center links, and that's what started this madness.
No. Okay. So going through my totals, I
From
haven't worn the
from the
Explorer.
beginning.
Yeah, I haven't worn the Explorer more this year than in previous years combined. I failed to count 2021, where I did wear it a fair bit, actually.
Okay. Maybe the professor isn't coming back.
Oh man. Oh man.
I thought it was happening. So, and you have you completely cooled off any interest you have in AP? Is that right? Am I right to assume that?
It's getting weaker, but I also recognize that getting one from the AD is becoming less ridiculous. I don't have much concrete proof of that, but I get the feeling that the story of getting, like, say, an offshore and then a code is going to be, I mean, not a code, fuck, getting an offshore and then getting a Royal Oak would be almost like that's a slam dunk if I'm willing to do it. And getting a white dial Royal Oak as a first piece just isn't that ridiculous. But I'm not sure I really want to ultimately. I'm starting to feel a little bit more like just get everything Rolex. Like it's like it's the 140 IQ move is just to, like, don't worry about those other brands and stuff, and just keep buying some Rolex, which I could do. I could easily see myself going back and buying like a Smurf and getting a yellow gold sub or something like that. Yeah, I'm talking like there's not much steel left for me to buy, but yeah, just start being complete degenerate and buying gold.
Yeah, honestly, I mean, an offshore diver is, it's a pretty cool watch. I've warmed up to the offshore, over the last few years quite a bit.
I have too. I've worn them, and they're ridiculously big, but that's what
Yeah,
they're meant to be.
that's right.
And they look nice. They look nice, and the way the rubber bracelet sort of attaches to the case and everything. It's it's a cool watch. I think overall it's cool. Like, whatever. And is it way too big for me? Yeah, well, it's way too big for everyone. Who cares?
Yeah, I mean, except you are like, kind of the bodybuilder type with some ginormous wrists. I suppose that the story might be a little different, but it's certainly too big for me as well.
Yeah. But it would just be like a fun watch, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I can't believe I saw this comment the other day where it's like, I can't remember what they were deriding. Oh, they were talking about the Tiffany OP. No, not the Tiffany OP, the Celebration Dial OP, and
Okay.
saying it's clearly an example of a brand that's moribund, and the kindest thing people can say about it is that it's quote unquote fun. I'm like, that's perfectly fine, man. I mean, fun is okay. It's not for everyone in a luxury watch, but it's the dial being friggin' crazy. It's a little bit of fun. That's why I like my Air King, and I think the offshore is just a little bit of fun. You know what I mean? You can't take the offshore too seriously, in my opinion. Like, just it's not. Yeah, just don't take it too seriously. It's not going to be your one and done. It's not meant to be that. Just it looks different. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think that also that also has a lot to do, I think, with the way that times have changed as well, because at one point, right, in the older AP catalogs, this was all one category, like it was the
Hmm.
sports watch. So you had the Royal Oak and offshore, and it was kind of the same product family.
Hmm.
But there are so many variations now within each series, which have their distinct character, even though it's quite obvious that they derive from the same thing, much like
Hmm.
the Nautilus and the Aquanaut for Patek. That you I think it's easier for people to wrap their head around the facts. Oh, these are different watches. They have
Hmm.
different purpose, they have a different ethos, they have a different wearing experience. And if you go back to the origin story again, when they started, Emmanuel Guet started designing something derivative of the Royal Oak in 1989 is when he started, I think. 1993 is when the first one was officially released. The idea was to make it, more rugged, more robust, and really that was the only direction that they could take it. I mean, they couldn't make it much thinner, using again a self-winding movement, which people take for granted for a sports watch, in this day and age. They couldn't have made it like a non-integrated bracelet watch of some sort, because what would be the point of that? And they had already somehow failed with that. Like there's the reference 14800 that is actually slightly different as a case design, designed by the same guy actually, Emmanuel Gitt, to be only worn with straps, and that wasn't a huge hit by any means. Still tracks behind, all the different variations of mid-sized Royal Oaks, because it's strap exclusive, strap only. You can't retrofit it with the bracelet. So that's the only way they could go. That they had to make it sportier, more rugged, and more obnoxious. And that's what they did. That's the Royal. That's the offshore. That's the Royal Oak offshore.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd be open to maybe getting the diver. Wouldn't, I'm not clamoring for it, but I do realize that I'm going to spend a lot of money on the Platona. The combo of an offshore diver and Royal Oak would be less money, I think. So,
Right.
These go up. Weren't these like 26.5 last year? Oh fuck.
Probably, yeah.
Oh Jesus Christ. Don't push this up, guys. This is ridiculous. 30.2. Okay, this is solidly under retail now. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, is that really a surprise at this point?
Yeah. But new CEO didn't kill the code. She's already disappointing us.
Yeah, well, I think it's there to stay. I'm sure you have paid attention to that part of the report as well. I'm talking about the annual Swiss Watcher, which said now 10% of the watches AP sells are code 1159s, which means it's here to stay and it started making its mark, and whatever platitude they have about it will have lasting power, whatever nonsense. It's they're really pushing that narrative through all channels possible. So I don't doubt it, right? I don't think they release or that Morgan Stanley necessarily quote unquote lies or misleads with the numbers of sales, but it's, of course, they're going to sell them if they use it as a stepping stone to the rest of the catalog. What you need to look at is how those pieces are trending on the secondary market, and to this day they're solidly under retail. And if you have to, the star wheel is the one that everyone wants, and obviously that's above retail. So I actually don't know. I actually don't know if that's above retail, by the way, but I'm assuming it is.
Yeah. So David SW has the divers. Oh geez, even the chronograph. It's way under retail. So that blue one on David SW's. I don't mean to plug or anything. I'm just for context, you need to know who I'm quoting, otherwise you might misunderstand the price to be what it is. But they're quoting 29,875. So basically, take the tax off, sort of deal, which you'll find someone far more desperate than 29,875 out there. So yeah, I mean maybe the boutique, they'll be happy to give you they'll be happy to give you one.
Absolutely. I don't think that was ever in doubt, to be honest. But
Yeah. I mean, I got the call for one. Not that that's an achievement, but yeah, it's they're available. They're definitely available. Are they good value though? Like if you get them secondhand, that would be a hard one. Like, is there any reason to pick it up secondhand as opposed to just a stepping stone for a Royal Oak?
I mean, yeah, look, for a lot of people, the offshore diver is their dream watch. So I can see it in that kind of scenario. That that's what they want.
Are they actually durable?
Yeah, I think honestly, it might be just me because I wear my watches all the time, and I do bang them about, but I do also wear them with a certain consciousness. It's like it is a luxury watch after all, and I don't wear a watch that's not Rolex in the same way I wear Rolex. I'm sure a lot of people are not that careful with what they consider sports watches. So I understand that people have run into these kinds of issues in the past, but whether the current movement in the Royal Oak offshore is not shockproof enough, that's I think that's mostly an urban myth at this point. Like time only offshore divers, I don't think they are in any way more prone to breaking than any other watch at that level. I mean, you can ask Ali. He has had his 15720 for a while, and I haven't seen him complain about it. And he does complain about certain things that that AP or other brands when they fail him. So
yeah, interesting. Yeah, I mean, at least it's not a complicated watch, so you hopefully dodge those multi-thousand-dollar service bills.
I mean, if you send it to AP, I'm sure it will still take, about $2,000 from your pocket at least. But
what's the warranty on an AP?
I think 3 years.
I was half expecting you to say 30 days. Okay, so I'm looking at extend warranty. So
okay, two plus 3. Sorry, 2 plus 3, so 5.
The extension of his sales from 2 to 5 years available for watch person in 2 years of our authorized network. Okay, so it's a free upgrade to 5 years if you register.
Yeah.
Yeah, five's not too bad. I'd expect a lot of APs to break within 5 years. I can't be. I'm not trying to be cruel, but I mean they make a lot of different movements and not in high volume, so I can't imagine they're like, durability testing is such a hard thing. Artie Lange, No to the Smurf. Not a fan of boring watches, huh? Oh. Just gonna put these away. There's almost no way you can actually put them. So, I hope people out there are getting refunds from taxes, because god damn it, I'm getting raped over here. It's not good. It's not good. I didn't realize I had to buy someone else that I've never met a Tesla. Yeah. Oh boy. So if people out there can like and subscribe, that would be really great. Let me see what your comments are at the moment. Let's see. There we go. Come on. So going back to the Smurf vote poll, I've added my vote to yes, just get it. So we've got 62% on the Smurf, just get it. I don't know. Clearly, it's not going to be that popular, but you know, that's just me.
I am surprised. I am surprised that it got slanted back to actually get the Smurf. That surprises me.
Yeah.
But again, this
down to earth.
This channel is, you know, the audience of this channel is a little bit self-selective. I'll admit to that. So I think the general public would probably just go with, like, if you're buying gold, just show it. But honestly, I think, you know, it's a very strong statement. Like a yellow gold sub, it's a lot. It's a lot. And it's like you don't need Archie to theatrically act it out to know that's a fuck off watch. You know, it's that's what it means. And even, you know, like you said, or like you implied rather, maybe even more than a day date.
Yeah. For whatever reason, it's more than a day date. It's more than a gold Daytona. A gold Daytona is, you know, absolutely incredible, but I don't know. There's something about the gold sub, because it's not incredible. It's just sort of like a brick of gold. It's just, you know what I mean? There's something about it that it's sort of like, it's more about it being gold than it is as a whole. You know, a fine product like the Daytona is. It's just something about getting that, the most rugged gold watch, and then making it gold. I mean, the most rugged watch in their lineup, and then making it gold is just, there's that blending of the two things is just, I don't know. It's beautiful. It's very beautiful, that's for sure. I'd love to have one. I'd love to be able to pull it off. And they're good value right now. I think you can get them for just under retail. It would be nice.
Artie says there's nothing fuck off about any catalog Submariner. I think you mean it in a positive way. I think, Artie, in the sense, like, you know, oh, you know, it's such a hyper flex. And no, actually, I mean, in a certain way, a gold sub in this new era of flex, a gold sub may well be very all too common. Let's put it in this way, in the
Mhm.
awfully common, as as a British gentleman would say. That being said, among just the average person, a full gold watch is a strong statement. A full gold Rolex is a stronger statement, and a full gold sub, I think, has, to me at least personally, it has more presence than the day date 40. It To me, it just does, and it doesn't have to be bluesy. I think even with the black dial, it has that sort
Yeah.
of obnoxious presence. But that's just me again. That if you disagree with that too, RT, yeah, I can live with that. But I don't think we mean the FU or F off rather in the same way.
Mm. Yeah, we just mean it's obnoxious. It's you're not. Yeah, you're swinging some big stuff around the room basically, just for fun.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, to be frank, again, you might be wearing a knockoff gold watch, and I think that that's still fuck off in a certain way. I mean, if people can see through it, it's an embarrassing one. But yeah, in the same way that Oz just said, it means that you're trying to make a certain kind of statement. It means that you want to enter into a pissing contest. It just means that you might not have the right stuff. It is what it is.
That is funny. It is funny. Like like the platinum would be worth like maybe 3 times more, market value, maybe even 4 times more. But I, a platinum Daytona doesn't have the same, it doesn't make the same statement as the yellow gold sub.
No, because like you said, I mean, from a certain distance, to most people's eyes, if they know a little bit about watches, that might register like some odd version of the Panda.
Yeah. And the in person, the dial on the platinum Daytona, like it looks ice blue in pictures and stuff, but in person it's very, very pale.
Yeah.
Initially I thought it was like some kind of weird panda with this, like the dial is a little sunbursty. I'm like, what's going on here? Oh wait, this is the ice blue. I was like, okay, it's it's very, very pale. So it looks very, very similar to the panda, but it isn't. It isn't. It isn't the steel one. And I think also the baguettes, like it's so the trade-offs for the baguette dial and the non-baguette dial are so close that I don't think I don't have a preference for either. Like I would just take whichever was cheaper or which one was easier, because I don't prefer the baguette dial. I definitely prefer the baguette dial on some of their other pieces, some of their other dials, like the Sundust dial. I think that does actually look really great with the baguettes. Maybe not as much as the difference is at retail, and certainly maybe not as much as the difficulty of getting one in that configuration. But I do prefer it slightly.
Yeah. You said you will take whatever they give you. Is that what you said at this?
Yeah,
At this
I wouldn't have a preference.
So you wouldn't say no if they did offer you the one with baguette cut diamonds on the dial.
No, I wouldn't say no. It comes down to whichever is easiest or cheapest. When you're talking about the AD, it's easiest. When we're talking about
Right.
secondary market, I'd take the cheapest.
I mean, I think basically the 116 506 with the baguette diamonds, maybe a little smidgen over the current list price for the Platinum Daytona.
Mm.
Like that might be ready already in a way, ready to pluck.
Where
And I
are you
have,
seeing it quoted?
let's see, I think I've seen a couple of examples um, on Chrono even. What's the current list price on the?
I think 76,000, that sort of range. They don't hide the price anymore, so let's take a look. $77,800 and $84,100. So that's a pretty big price difference.
Mm.
Yeah, it's like $6,000-7,000 price difference. Yeah, I would say, yeah, cheapest and easiest would be my preference, but at the AD it would just simply be whatever came. I wouldn't prefer to spend an extra $7,000 on a Platona, regardless of the market price. You know, I don't really care what other people think. Like, I think they're both nice. I mean, even in the previous gen, I felt like the two dials were pretty interchangeable without much preference going to one or the other.
Yeah, I take that
Wouldn't
back.
pay
I
for it.
think I don't see any on Chrono, and they are more around 100,000, if not
Yeah,
more.
I think they're floating at 100, and then baguettes would probably be like 110, 120. I'm guessing, but there's not going to be that much price finding. There just aren't a huge number of them.
Yeah, I don't know if I prefer the old one when it comes to the baguette dial or not, because this
Yeah,
one,
it loses the subdials. Yeah.
well, yeah, I mean, there's no distinguishing factor, and I don't know. I always like the color or any color of the outer rings. Honestly, I think that just gives the chronograph a more chronograph-like look,
Mm-hmm.
which you can, of course, achieve with a subtly recessed dial and whatever else. But I feel like, that there was something about the earlier versions, completely ice blue look. There
Mm-hmm.
was something to be said about that.
I mean, you could more easily spot it from further away which version it was. I mean,
Mm.
whether or not you like it or not, it's, yeah, who knows. Here's one aspect that's in favor of like saying the non-baguette.
Oh, did we lose Oz as well? Oz? Ozzy, where'd you go? Man, I think we lost him as well. So what's going on with people's connections tonight? For once, I almost had at something like a panel, and not on a special occasion. And suddenly, both my guests are gone. Oh yeah. Sorry, my phone died. I'm done for the evening, I guess. Yeah. Well, I will actually continue because I know this auction will end by the time I start a live show tomorrow. Right before Ozzy jumped on, we were talking about the Ineichen Zürich Timeless Treasures auction, which is really their way of highlighting their sale of some 56 lots of Patek Philippe watches. I was talking about the history of the annual calendar as a complication within Patek's catalog that started with reference 5035 in 1996. For the 10th anniversary of that complication, they combined it with their self-winding chronograph with the flyback function, and that was their way of introducing that in-house integrated chronograph movement as well. And I left it right at the point when I was saying, since this is a modern vertical clutch column wheel movement, not only do you not encounter any stutter or extra jumps in the second or minute hands when you engage and disengage the chronograph, you also can simply use the centrally deployed chronograph hand as a sweep center seconds hand of sorts, and just leave it running. And the flyback function, of course, makes comes even into better use, even more into its own that way, because when you want to start the chronograph in earnest for whatever reason, to cook pasta, to boil your egg just right, or make sure that you, I don't know, you feed that parkometer with some more quarters, how much your significant other talked before they got a chance to breathe, you decide. But I like the 5960. For me, it's like 1518 for the 21st century, insofar as it really brings down these kinds of complications to earth, and especially for a collection that's now discontinued on with that reference number, even though the 5961 and the 5205 exist in the catalog as annual calendar chronographs, with the variations it gained over the years from 2006 to 2020. I think it's a great watch when it comes to having a complicated Patek that you'll still sink in a significant chunk of money into, but it will give you a lot of Patek for that money. And lot 40, which is a 5960p, is being bid at around $53,400 US, with less than 6 hours and a half left on the clock. On the secondary market, you can get these things much cheaper, I think under 50, in fact, for most variations. So that's something to keep in mind if you want to pay that kind of money. These offer some great alternatives. I mean, the pink gold versions, I think, make a beautiful dress watch. The platinum versions are hefty, and with the anthracite gray dial, also just the right amount of energy, oomph. The stainless steel ones coming as they do on matching bracelets, are great for everyday wear. The 5960G has a lot of cool aesthetic touches, not limited to the blue dial and the pilot watch styling, but also to the historical archival cue when it comes to the finishing of the chronograph pushers. It's like an entire line onto its own, and I think really deserves much more of a consideration within anything and everything Patek. We talked about the tonneau shaped or tortue shaped perpetual calendar yesterday, the 5040. But the 5159, which is the reference for the perpetual calendar that is served up in an officer styled case, named such, named thus because, of course, of its extended screw-through lugs, but also the hinged case back. So you can get a good sense of the lugs here. And here's a look at the hinged case back. And these are, again, actually one of the most beautiful and, in my opinion at least, also aesthetically consistent versions, and really unique versions of the perpetual calendar. What is usually a maker's strength can be at the core of the downfall of certain examples of their creations, simply because Patek has been prized historically for making complicated watches in Calatrava style cases that embody that sort of restrained, simple but beautiful elegance. Anything that strays a little bit from that path, from that sort of aesthetic profile, can get lost in the sauce, can get undervalued in the markets, which is too bad. But it's also a great chance for everyone else who is interested in that complication and who might even be actually invested in that case, in that design as well. From the oversized onion-styled crown to the spade set of hands, of which the minute hand is, of course, elegantly twisted, to the retrograde date indicator, from the slightly elongated Roman numerals to the guilloche center dial, to the way that the font of the date scale matches the markers of the minutes behind the Roman numerals. I think this is a very interesting proposition indeed. And the retrograde date indicator for me really comes into its own in this kind of watch with the perpetual calendar complication, because of course that particular midnight you will not only see the day advance, the month advance, but also the date hands snap back on to the first of the month, whatever it may be at the end of the month. So it's really a beautiful beautiful application of that retrograde complication. This is the 5159G, as in gris, white gold or gray gold, if you want to call it that. And this is a naked watch, but does come with the matching déployant clasp that carries the Calatrava cross. Piece is also 38 millimeters in diameter, which wears quite nicely with those extended officer style lugs, even though the watch doesn't therefore lose its dressier and vintage like charm. Lot 41 is currently being bid at 30. Oh, wait. Didn't I switch to USD? Right. $42,050. And we have about 6 hours and 20 minutes left until closing. Beautiful piece. And I think they have two of these in the mix. I believe they have not one, but two. Yes. Lot 38 is currently being bid at around the same price and has also the fixed price as a buy it now option at 51,100. Fantastic. This particular example actually comes with a certificate of origin and a grimy proprietary strap. Pretty cool. It does have an additional strap as well that it comes with, joking aside. I want to see what interesting pieces I may have skipped. We talked about the Manta Ray, which was the Millennium Limited Edition with 10-day power reserve, one of 450 examples in white gold. That piece at lot number 17 is currently being bid at 32,950. There's a Gondola Cabriolet, which may be an acquired taste, but it really is an amazing watch. This is a piece that has a two-tone application, so to speak. Pink gold with these white gold stripes and white gold lugs. And the piece has the look and function of the Savonnet Cartier pieces, where you can use the lower pushers to flip open the cover. So this is like a true jewelry piece kind of look. where you have some additional visual interest on the face, even when it's not showing the time. And the dial itself has a great look as well, kind of like this granular gold tone that matches the case. Hey, Memo Box, that's great. If the 5159 isn't enough, and should be, and it can be found, you know, it can be a great deal on the secondary markets. There's a fully engraved version in the reference 5160. That's a very artful watch. And RT says a friend of mine has a 5160 and loves it very much. Those are amazing pieces. This is reference 5099 RG, a two-tone piece essentially that combines pink gold with white gold details. It's a gondola cabriolet, which has kind of a flip open dial cover with about 6 hours and 15 minutes to closing. It's currently being bid at $14,200 in the US currency. It has a buy it now option that's set right around $20,500 as well. That was lot number 15. Once again, I want to share this link. I'm finishing up my coverage of the Ineichen Zürich Patek auction. If you have any watch-related questions, if you want me to shine particular light on any of these lots, feel free to send in the lot number or your question with the super chats. Or if you simply want to contribute, you know, YouTube offers you a number of options, and there are links to other ways you can support the channel in the video description. Again, this is a fully independent channel, only at your service, so that you can get the best value of your money without the marketing fluff, without misleading tie-ins with any gray marketeers or auction houses or anyone in the industry for that matter. I cover auctions quite widely, but do not endorse any one particular house. And as I've done in this broadcast, for the most part, I will direct you to do your homework, be patient, and hunt for the right example on the secondary markets to get a better deal. This has been mostly the case here, mostly the case with this auction as well. I'm gonna talk about two watches that I don't particularly like, but might still be quite important. Here's a reference 6007. These are pieces that have received a kind of revamp / release with colorful details just last year from Patek Philippe. But this particular version of the 6007 G, a 40 millimeter Calatrava in white gold, was actually a limited edition that was commemorating or simply marking the occasion of the new manufacture
opening in Plan les Ouates in 2019. I think it was a 1,000 piece limited run. It has this detail on the back that inscribes the occasion onto the sapphire case back. And there's a blue dial with that carbon fiber like basket weave design at the center. And that is complemented with a textured strap with a kind of cloth-like or canvas-like texture and contrast stitching. I believe this particular example, mint as it is, doesn't really come with its accompanying material. There's no mention or no visuals of box and papers, no certificate of origin, no promotional material, which seems a little strange. And unlike the current lineup of the reference 6007, this is actually in stainless steel, the limited edition of 1,000 pieces. So it should be, it does command quite a bit of premium because of that. Lot 24 is currently being bid at 65,900 with about 6 hours and 10 minutes to go. Please hit the like button, by the way, if you haven't already. If you have voted in the poll that we did for our friend Oz, it's about to end, but it's 50-50. He wants to see if he wants to get the 116619 LB, the so-called Smurf, the older, now discontinued version of the white gold Submariner that has a dial, a matte blue dial that matches the blue ceramic bezel. So please, if you want, still vote in that, but hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, if you have just chanced upon this broadcast for one reason or another, but have not subscribed, please do. I am here with watch content practically on a daily basis, and you'll always find interesting tidbits, historical and horological information, and a lot of great insights by experts, by industry insiders, as well as yours truly when it comes to the world of watches. The next lot number 25 is the Calatrava 6000 in white gold. This is also one of those pieces by Patek Philippe that I find incredibly confused, kind of like that Steve Buscemi meme from 30 Rock. Whenever Patek tries to look sporty in a design that's not Nautilus or Aquanaut, it's those strong, like, you know, how are you doing, fellow kids vibe. I cringe, but it is what it is. This is I think I'll say maybe the off-center seconds
off-center small seconds. Maybe that's a cool detail. Beyond that, I really have a really have a hard time finding anything to like about this watch. It also has a pointer date with a red crescent tip that indicates the dates on the periphery of the dial. I mean, the font is just incredibly obnoxious. It does remind me of the 90s Neptune, and I like a lot of the Patek Neptune, but not the dial font, not the fonts that has been used in the dial. I mean, 5085, I think, is an interesting reference as a forgotten integrated bracelet watch by Patek, but that's its shortcoming, anyways. Anyhow, this is, I think, this is also a smaller size piece, so it has that going for it. I believe it is a 37 millimeter Calatrava and has the micro rotor movement too, which again makes it kind of a confusing watch for me. It has all that compactness and sleek elegance that you expect from a Patek dress watch, but it's not. Its face is a little different, a little weird. But hey, the great thing I can say about this is it actually has the Geneva seal for that pre 2009 feeling. And even though the piece has a buy it now option set at 27,300, current bidding stands right under 20,000 with about 6 hours to go until closing. Ooh. I would love a stainless steel golden ellipse with a hand wound movement. I think pointer date on the periphery of the dial. Wow. I don't know how many good executions of that exist, honestly. I can think of one or two references, but that's not something that's often done without messing things up. And the smaller the watch is, the busier the dial gets, and that's really a horrendous execution of that particular complication, like pointer date on the periphery. Pointer date on a subdial, I like that. I have that in my Danny Roth Premier Retrograde. I love it. Speaking of Patek Philippe perpetual calendars, there are a few that we didn't look at, but that can demonstrate what I was saying. So you have essentially the same watch next to each other here. The 5159, which is a perpetual calendar with a retrograde date indicator in the officer styled case. Those are trending in this auction right around $42,000 now, with about 6 hours to go. Whereas you have the same complication and also the same movement, if I'm not mistaken. maybe not exactly the same movement. I mean, probably the pink gold that we're looking at has the newer version of the movement, if I'm not mistaken, but the same complication at any rate. The reference 5496, classic Calatrava case, obus-shaped hour markers, Dauphine hands, and suddenly you have this particular piece at lot 37 being bid at 68,150. I'm sorry, it's getting a little late for me, so I do apologize for a couple of mistakes here and there, which I correct immediately. And the fixed price option, the buy it now option, is set at 76,100 here, which again is considerably, substantially higher than the officer styled case for our 5159. And I think 5159 has the caliber 315, and this has the caliber 324. So it's a little different. But overall, you see how something like the case design, which is not popular, can actually make a whole lot of difference. More traditional expressions of the perpetual calendar here with the 5140 in white gold in a 37 millimeter white gold case with the micro rotor movements that carries the hallmark of Geneva and belongs to the lineage of that classic 240. What a beautiful and elegant watch. Comes with the matching deployant clasp that bears the Calatrava cross. This piece is currently being bid at 37,500 with about 6 hours left on the clock. A similar piece, which is the reference 5136 line 1R, pink gold with the matching, yellow gold with the matching 5-row beads of rice bracelets. With the opaline white dial, Dauphine hands, moon phase indicator at 6 that is surrounded by the pointer dates. At 3 o'clock, you have the leap year indicator, which is surrounded by the pointer for the month. And then you have a micro hour hand for the 24 hours, essentially your day-night indicator at 9 o'clock. And that is encircled by the subdial for the day of the week. A beautiful piece once again with that old school micro rotor movements. With the hallmark of Geneva, the watch is from around 2006. And this is a piece actually that comes with all the bells and whistles. As you can see, box, papers, even the outer box for the presentation box, the matching pusher pin, or pin pusher rather, in yellow gold, and the additional case back if you just want that extra heft and don't really care for the exhibition of the movements. This is lot 35 for the perpetual calendar reference 5136J, which is currently being bid at 52,250 in US dollars with less than 6 hours left on the clock. It's now past 1 o'clock. I have about a handful watches left to cover here for the Ineichen Zürich Timeless Treasures auction, which is their way of highlighting a number of Patek Philippe pieces that they are selling. If there are any pieces that you want me to highlight before I go off tonight, here's the link. Feel free to send in the lot number with a super chat. I'll be more than happy to cater to you. The 5496 is truly a beauty, RT. The 5396-2 can be interesting, but of course it doesn't have the retrograde complication, and its style layout is otherwise quite different as well. This is a 39 millimeter case in white gold, 5396G, and the calendar functions, calendar indications are taken over by a date window at 6 o'clock and the two neighboring openings right under the signature for the day of the week and the month. There's also a day-night indicator in the form of a 24-hour subdial at 6 o'clock, which overlaps with the date window and surrounds the moon phase indicator. Sweep center seconds, Dauphine hands, which play along with obus-shaped hour markers, and a pearl track for minutes. The piece comes with box and papers, and with less than 6 hours to go, it is currently being bid at 45,450 US dollars at lot number 36. The buy it now option is slightly higher than that, set at 51,100 in US dollars. Lot 47 is the Aquanaut as it was created. Sometimes people call this the pre-Aquanauts also, especially if it's actually the first series that was released in 1996, before Aquanaut as we know it was released in 1997 with in stainless steel with the embossed black grenade style dial, Arabic numerals, black dial, matched with a tropical rubber strap that repeats the pattern, that grenade-like pattern of the dial as well. The original 5060 reference, 5060S in 18 karat yellow gold, actually had a black dial with Roman numerals and leaf hands that was pretty close to some of the options, some of the configurations of the Nautilus at the time. The fact that the porthole case is derivative of that model, that Jarajanta design, is of course no secret, and it was presented as it is here on a black crocodile strap. Of course, this is an example of that reference from a much later era, even post 2000. But the design for this example, for this variation that scaled right around 36 millimeters in diameter, remained the same until it was discontinued. Lot 47 is currently being bid at $42,050 with 5 hours and 50 minutes to go. And the fixed price, which is a buy it now option that can end auction at any time, is set at 51,100 in US dollars. Yeah, I hope I'll be able to get a jumbo 15202 before the end of the year, hopefully before my birthday, which is in November. And thank you for your good wishes. We're getting closer to it, I hope. I might end up getting another Royal Oak, maybe as a placeholder before that time arrives. It's possible, but yeah, the jumbo I'm gonna get through Eric Wind. I think that's a given. So hopefully before the end of the year. Number 43, by the way, is one of those early reference points, except of course this was right after the 5060A, the reference that followed upon it. 5065 became the jumbo at the time, blowing the case size up from 36 to 38. The new reference 5066, however, I think these came out in 1998, I want to say, kept the original 36 millimeter case diameter and was essentially a reiteration of the 5060A. So you can see how different that is from the 5060 J that we were just looking at. It's almost a different watch entirely. And of course, the 5066 gave an exhibition case back to this particular case size, this particular reference that the 5060A did not have. This does come with an extract from the archives from right around 2000, with 5 hours and 47 minutes to go. Lot 43, which is for 5066A. It's being bid at 39,750. There is a buy now option set at 45,450. I'm going to end the poll because there's not much time left anyways. People say that Oz should in fact just get the Smurf, the Rolex Submariner in white gold, the now discontinued reference 116619LB, blue bezel, blue dial. $57.11 steel with less than 6 hours. Lot 48, which is for the Patek Philippe Nautilus 5711 Line 1A, is currently being bid at 72,700 in US dollars. The fixed price is actually a 6-figure. And considering that there's a reserve, this piece is likely not to sell. It's an interesting time in the markets. Another piece that is a good deal, again, because of its shape, and we can use that as an occasion to close. Please hit the like button. Don't forget to leave a comment once the live stream ends. All of that helps a great deal. If you share the link with fellow watch enthusiasts and other collectors, that will be an immense help. Expanding the community that we have been building here, that we are growing here, that only comes together for the knowledge of and passion for wristwatches, helps all of us. If you want to contribute in other ways, with what the YouTube offers you, with other options that are linked in the video description, that is also well appreciated. All these contributions come back to you in terms of the quality and quantity of content on this channel. Everything is watch-related content. There's no drama, no fuss, no muss, no marketing flannel, just watches. And again, because this is an independent platform, because I'm an independent voice that doesn't serve any masters, I am at the behest of my audience, so any contributions you make are well appreciated. At lot 42, we have the Gondola annual calendar, the reference 5135G, with a stunning two-tone gray dial that has the radial grooves at the center and sunburst finish at the hour track. the annual calendar, the calendar indications are expressed between 10 and 2 o'clock through 3 apertures in the dial. At 12 o'clock straight through a trapezoidal opening, you have the date window. And at 10 o'clock, you have the day of the week. At 2 o'clock, you have the month. The two Arabic numbers at 3 and 9 o'clock complement the arrow-shaped applied indices. And the moon phase at 6 o'clock is surrounded by a subdial for the 24-hour hand, which is your day and night indicator. Dauphine set of hands with sweep center seconds for this barrel-shaped case. Which is quite wearable and very unique. The dimensions are 38 by 41, so it will wear comfortably with enough presence, but without being intrusive. Self-winding movements with the hallmark of Geneva, since this is again a pre-2009 kind of deal. The movement is built on the caliber 324, self-winding with the full 21 karat gold rotor. It's described as in very good condition, and even though the fixed price, the buy it now option for lot 42 for this 5135G is set at 30,700 with right about 5 hours and 40 minutes to go. It is currently being bid at 22,750 in US dollars. Lot 42 is a Patek Philippe Gondolo annual calendar in a barrel-shaped case, reference 5135G, white gold case, 38 by 41. The bidding currently stands at 22,750. That's it for me tonight. Thank you again for all your presence and support. Thank you for your interjections, interventions, and questions from the chat. I'm grateful to my fellow panelists who shared their beautiful company and conversation with me, if only for a limited time. Oz and El Professor, thank you so much. JB, who contributed this generous super chat early in the broadcast, $4.99 US dollars. Thank you. He's also a member of the channel. Again, if you haven't subscribed, please do that, and I will reward you with watch content on a daily basis. If you share the link with fellow collectors, with other watch enthusiasts, I will be forever grateful, because that's a great way of getting more eyeballs on this channel that's only focuses on watches and nothing else, in the sense that no drama, right? You know, it is still watches and style. I'll be back with you tomorrow as well, and again for the nightly live stream. There are more videos, as you know. a considerable archive that is membership exclusive, and an even bigger archive of videos that focus on very specific brands, models, or complications, taking 3 or 4 examples from the markets and diving deep horologically and historically into those models. Check them out. You'll find them in the Wilf Hunter playlist or right under the videos section. Again, hit the like button. Let me know what you think. Share the links. Trust me, you'll find something to enjoy, something to learn. And again, if you want to contribute, you have the option through the links provided in the video description. That being said, I am signing off. Hopefully, I will see you tomorrow as well. But until then, I hope you stay safe, stay healthy, wear and enjoy your watches. Thank you.